Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
It's a blessing to be in this position, and we're just thankful to be here. We're thankful to have the opportunity to go out there and play in front of the 12 men.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Buchanan.
Nuño.
You know, they say, and I don't know who those people are, but they do say, there's a group of them that say it, that a really good team takes on the identity of its coach. Actually, a bad team can too, right?
Yeah, absolutely, because I've seen it happen here.
Yep. And I think yesterday is another indication of Texas A&M football taking on Coach Elko's personality and identity, because there's a quiet confidence, but not a cocky, arrogant confidence. It's like, we know we got to do work. Let's go do the work.
Yeah, it definitely seems that. I can see why you would draw that conclusion or feel that way, get that vibe. They do the responses were much like, Coach Elko's responses. And
yep.
That's I think that's one of the truest cliches in sports.
Yep. They recognize things that they have to do, and they're going to do what they have to do, and they'll let the action on the field determine the talking points. Now, I will say, I think they all absorb some information. How can you not in this generation, this world that we live in, this social world? But they're pretty even keel with a chip, if that's even possible.
Sure it is. You can have a chip on your shoulder without telling everybody you have a chip on your shoulder. You can just, it's, I think if you're good and you're just focused on the mission and not the hype,
yep,
you become very dangerous. But first, you have to be good.
Yep, I agree. Let's hear from Marcel Reed yesterday.
All right.
I believe I can't read our. I don't know if you can see. Our printer sometimes goes rogue on us.
I thought everybody got redacted.
Yeah, well, it feels like this is the Epstein files. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. Those are missing. Never mind. Anyway, I want to hear from Marcel yesterday, the opening exchange about his offseason and some other things that were on his mind. Talk about your offseason and where you think you've made maybe the most improvements.
Well, I know y'all have also heard it just like I have, not a passer. But, I feel like I've had, tremendous growth in my passing this offseason. We've had some great receivers come in and, just having the O-line that we have, the running backs that we have, they've made it a lot easier for me to be able to sit back there and make these throws. And, the receivers we have now have made it a lot easier as well to make these throws. And I think I just feel a lot more confident back there, kind of finding ways to protect myself, knowing the offense a little bit better, and just being confident as a quarterback behind the O-line.
Some of the chatter behind the scenes, did it motivate your workouts? Did it make you what did it do for you this offseason?
It didn't really motivate me or do anything different for me. Obviously, as I go into each season, I know there's some things that I have to improve on. And, I've been doing that since I was a kid. You got to keep growing. There's always different things you got to find to be better at. And, I try to do that at every practice that I get a chance to. So, yeah.
All right. Good stuff there from Marcel Reed. So, a couple things I take from that. I would like for everybody to put their competitor's hat on. Okay. Some of us are competitive in tic-tac-toe, thumb wrestling, whatever it may be. Some of us are a little more chill. I'm more on the I want to win at everything in life. He is being doubted. He recognizes it. In his mind, he's like, I'm going to show them. And that's what I want from my quarterback. Because he's thinking to himself, look, my numbers are like everybody else's. Why are you not talking about everybody else the way? Like, I have DJ Lagway's numbers. I can do this. Did you see my game in Florida? Did you see the couple passes I threw against LSU? I can throw the ball.
Again, we've talked about it over the last several months. When I discuss Marcel Reed, I think he's proven that he can throw the ball well.
Yep.
To me, the whole issue, and he talked about it, understanding the offense more, being comfortable. To me, where he needs to get better, and is just identifying the right guy to throw to. But I saw him, unfortunately, it was incomplete. But I saw him on the first play of the second half against Arkansas, throw a 50-yard rainbow, and he missed Noah Thomas by inches.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can throw it.
He can. And obviously, it was bugging him. Not bugging to him.
He's aware.
There you go. Like, his opening sentence was about that, right? Like, I've heard it too. I've grown. And that's all we can ask. If he has grown, which I think he has, I think we all think he probably has taken a couple steps.
I think he took steps as the season went on.
100%. 100%. And I know sometimes we grade him on the Texas game. Texas game was just a bad game offensively overall.
Yeah, against a team that might have been the second best team in the country last year, as much as it pains me to say. Might have been. And they were better. And you know what? He had a chance to make some plays. And I think of one in particular, Noah. He had a guy wide open and missed the open guy. Not by throwing to him, like not seeing it. And that goes back to, no doubt he can throw it. He just recognizes what's there, and he's going to really break out.
Let's throw some more, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's let Marcel talk about throwing it deep.
I don't think my, passing ability being better will affect how many times I run the ball. And it's definitely instincts whenever I run. But, the defense has to make a decision at the end of the day. Once I get out of the pocket, they either got to come get me or they got to stay on the receiver, depending on what the coverage is, man or zone. But, we got check downs. I got some people who can make plays once they see me run. We got scramble drill. So.
Was it Nick yesterday? I forget who. Somebody on the show was like, maybe we'll see Marcel run for 1,000 yards. I don't necessarily want that.
No.
Because I want it to be.
It was cool when Johnny did it. But.
Yeah, I just don't want. Look, after our quarterbacks the last few years being in the ER tent a little bit more often than they should, I want him to run because that's what makes him so explosive, right? I just don't want it to be so much that he becomes vulnerable.
I don't mind if he runs for 1,000 yards. I'll tell you why. Because if he's run for 1,000 yards, that means he stayed. He's stayed.
Good point. Good point.
But I
understand my point. Is like I don't think this. He doesn't have. He's got more to offer than just that.
I think what would be perfect is if he had a 3,000 plus yards passing, and then about 600 rushing. Last year he had 543, I think it was, in a small amount.
I think he might run for 800.
I even asked him yesterday about, as he gets more
that was the question right there. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
As he gets more comfortable in the offense and more confident as a passer, do you think that'll reduce your rushing output?
Right.
And I'll tell you why I wonder about that. And Kellen, I love you. But I thought Kellen Mond would have been an even more effective quarterback had he taken the obvious running opportunities. Because when you become, first of all, if there's a 10-yard gain there, and I'd rather you take that and get out of bounds than try to force a ball into something. But when you start becoming a running threat like Kellen was and like Marcel is, the defense has become more aware of that, and that typically takes one more guy out of coverage.
Let me ask you this question, okay? Impossible question to answer, but I'm just going to ask you because this is a talk show. It's like two buddies talking.
Yeah, let's talk.
Okay. Same Marcel from last year, okay? Let's go to last year. Same Marcel, last year's roster, except this year's wide receiver room. Do his numbers look better?
Yeah, his numbers will look better because if you'll look, last year, he started out through for like 178 and then 169, and then with the exception of the Texas game, when he came back as a starter after LSU, he was actually every game it seemed like he was over 250, 278. He was getting better. They win the game. The Las Vegas Bowl, if Noah Thomas catches a touchdown pass that hits him in the hands.
Yep.
They win that one. So,
and I think we'll get to it a little bit later. I think at 8:35 we'll get to it. But he talked about the Auburn game and some of the, one of the mistakes he had in that game. I just think he's going to take a step forward. We should, no matter who the quarterback is, you would think with more experience you should take a step forward. Sometimes there's a sophomore slump, but I expect him to take a step forward. So that's why I went back to last year's Marcel with a little bit quicker wide receivers, which is a fair way of saying it, right? They got a more explosive group this year.
Elko said it yesterday. They are cliche, but bigger, faster, and stronger.
Okay, so that Marcel with these receivers, what is the output? Okay, now Marcel, seasoned, off-season learning Colin Klein's system. He even said it yesterday. He's a little bit more experienced in it. He understands it more, and more explosive receivers. I think, and as we've said 1,000 times, Marcel was not the problem last year. Could he have been better? Yes. They have some defensive issues that I think they have addressed.
Scooby acknowledged it yesterday, today. We didn't do well in the last 5 games, and it's probably on us as a defense.
Let's talk some more quarterback, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely.
According to Billy Napier, DJ Lagway is day-to-day. The good thing is that we're about a week removed from the calf injury.
Okay. So now they're saying it was a calf injury. Mm-hmm. He was in a boot for a calf injury?
Well, it's actually, I don't think he said it himself. The article has it from calf injury.
Okay. So. I've never known. Usually when I hear about a guy in a boot, it's ankle.
Well, sometimes a calf injury will mess with your Achilles. It'll all work its way down to your ankle, and it's hard to step.
Maybe it's one of those knee boots like the seniors in the Corps wear. Maybe it's that
very stylish look.
Yeah, very stylish.
That's dangerous. Calf injuries can become a real thing. So.
Yeah, but if he's day to day, that tells me the severity of it.
But aren't we all, as they say?
Well, yeah, but
hour to hour.
Could be hour to hour,
minute to minute.
You're talking about my life or my employment?
Well, some things are the same, OB. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. Here's another one for you. Joel Klatt. Jeremiah Love is the best running back in college football, and he's what past Notre Dame teams were missing. He might be.
Might be. I know there's a Singleton guy up in Penn State that might disagree. There's a guy here that might disagree. There's a guy in Texas over in Austin that might disagree. But Jeremiah Love, if you say that it's one of the few times I can look at Klatt and say, he might be right. He might be.
I had him initially when I don't vote for the Heisman, you do, but I was trying to figure out people who could win the Heisman, and this is out there more than just David Nuño. A lot of people have, but I think Jeremiah Love, if Notre Dame is in the playoffs, I think Jeremiah Love will be in New York.
Well, Notre Dame guys typically get even more votes, even if they don't deserve them. I go back to Manti Te'o, finishing, I think, second.
Mm-hmm. Second or third? Was it Colin Klein second?
Colin might have been second.
Yeah, but in that mix, you're second and third.
And I remember thinking, he's got a lot of interceptions, but if you look at for a linebacker, 6, but if you look at his tackle totals, he's averaging like 5 tackles a game. You're like, is that really Heisman worthy? Oh, but you play for Notre Dame.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. Here's another thing for you. On my drive here, listening to Danny Cannell. Okay, I like Danny and Dusty. I don't agree with them all the time, but they have some good takes sometimes. Danny was talking about this Big Ten versus SEC, ACC versus the SEC, and he was making a point that it's not fair that Indiana gets, scolded for their schedule, but people forget that Texas had one of the easier schedules in the country. And OB, I was telling you before the show, my response to that is we were talking about Texas' schedule before. The difference in this offseason is Texas at least proved that they were worthy by beating teams in the playoffs. And they were, a play away from tying it or beating Ohio State. So, and who won the national championship. So that the difference is Indiana lost their first game of the playoffs.
Well, I don't know that Indiana, and again, this sounds provincial. I surely don't mean to be taken up for Texas. I don't think Indiana beat a team all year as good as Texas A&M.
I agree with you.
And then they played close game with Georgia. Like I said, I'm defending Texas on this thing. I'm not comfortable with it, but it's true. And quite frankly, even if you're playing the dregs of the SEC, which Texas did a lot of, Vanderbilt, by the way, wasn't a dreg. But if you were, I would still be more impressed with that than beating the dregs of the Big Ten, which Indiana was doing on a weekly basis.
Two things can be true. The schedule was easy for Texas in year one. It's a little harder this year in year two of the SEC. But they were one of the better teams in the country. I think Indiana should have been a playoff team. I said that based on their resume. That doesn't mean that I think they're one of the 12 best teams in the country or 10 best teams in the country.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with Indiana being in the playoff. I just, but you cannot look at the schedule they played last year or this year and say, I don't understand why the SEC wants strength of schedule, some kind of strength of schedule component added into the decision on who's going to be in a playoff.
Great. By the way, this is still TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations, currently hanging out in the Holistic Planning Cool Zone.
Yeah.
OB, if the people want to be a part of the conversation, what should they do?
They should call us.
Yeah, 979-693.
11:30?
50?
11:50.
The station you've been on for 30 years?
Yeah, but I'm never listening to it because I'm on here already.
Oh, it's like not knowing your address because you live there.
Or your phone number.
Yeah. You don't know your phone number?
Well, I do, but there's a lot of people I don't know their phone number because I just see their name. And I just point their name.
Oh, okay. So you just point at 1150.
Yeah, I point at 1150.
Or 93.7 on the FM.
When I'm in my car and I want to listen to it, I just push the button that goes 1150.
Yeah, the difference between us is that mine is permanently set at 1150. It doesn't change. Oh, actually, it changes to FM.
Well, I have about 4 or 5 stations I listen to. One of them has Cannell and Dusty on it.
Let's go to the Angry Elephant News. And I did tell the people the phone number, but I didn't tell them that if they call it, we'll pick it up on the Buppy's Catering and Bartending hotline. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Kaylee Dreyer making her return to the Social Center.
Good morning.
Kaylee.
How are y'all?
Good.
I'm all right.
Good.
Yeah. How are you? That is the more important question.
I'm good. I'm a little tired.
Got her hair kind of curly today.
Thank you. I got my hair done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We should maybe do a TexAgs one summer Hall of Fame of Social Center.
Social Center Hall of Fame. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We throw in the Dryers, the Luke Evangelos, the
I don't know
Anna Rosa Peterson.
Yeah. I don't know if Luke's on there.
Dawson.
Oh, Matthew Dawson.
Zane. Kay. Callie. All of them work here right now. We've had a lot of great ones.
Yeah. I think we'd have to get decide who's a first ballot and who's not.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Kaylee, first ballot? She's right here. We probably should say yes.
Yeah, maybe.
Look at her face.
Maybe.
I'll consider it.
Hey, she's still working here. That means something.
I came back, so.
Thank you. What out of retirement, what do you have for us?
So this weekend, Texas A&M football offensive linemen Armaje Reed Adams and Trey Zoon III were named to the preseason watch list for the 2025 Outland Trophy, which is presented to the best interior linemen in college football. Armaje is a preseason All-America pick at offensive guard by PFF after starting 12 regular season games last season and posting at 85.9 run block by PFF last year, which was second best among returning offensive guards nationally. And then Trey leads the team with 37 career starts and is a preseason first team All-SEC selection by Athlon and Phil Steele. He was graded as the Aggies' top pass blocker at 80.8 according to PFF.
I think that was a Hall of Fame worthy report right there.
Good job.
Thank you.
Two things that I think, and one thing that I noticed. I thought Trey Zoon looked a little bit more like,
he's always been a big guy.
But like cut version of that. A more cut version of what he was before. right?
Looks like the guy's really been working hard.
Yeah, and Armage, I think, is exactly what you want from an offensive lineman. Super intimidating, super nice, right? Like it's both. He knows how to be two different people. I guess the whole offensive line you can say that about.
You want everybody to be nice off the field, and you want them to be ornery old snots on the field.
You think offensive linemen like eating meat?
Oh, heck yeah.
You think they're
carnivores?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
We should have a offensive line meeting at 1775. Yeah, we'll eat.
As long as I'm not buying.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
we'll
get Billy to come with us on that one.
He's kind of an offensive lineman himself.
I think of him more as an offensive coordinator, but
I'm just saying he's built like
one. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how to respond to that. I think he's built like a wide receiver.
Luch? He's a big dude. What do you want?
Wide receivers are tall.
Okay.
Should we get back to the eating?
You mean you say wide receiver? Is that as an adjective?
What are we going to eat at 1775?
I'm going to have some succulent brisket. I'm going to have that jalapeno cheese sausage. I'm going to have those succulent pork ribs, and I'm going to have probably some of the turkey. You know why? Because I'm getting the sampler, which lets you experience all of them.
I don't like your tone when you bring up turkey. You give me this look like turkey guy.
I'm going to gobble it up.
1775 txbbq.com 979-492-6241. It's 1775.
It's good.
Let's talk a little Snaps clothing. David Nuño here, and I love wearing Snaps clothing everywhere. I've got the flannel on right now. You've seen me in the Tailgater collection with the A&M gear. It is fantastic. If you see me around town with my sons, Christian and Cruz, they've got a bunch of Snaps gear. When they have big games for Consol, they wear nice clothes, so they wear their Snap stuff. And I'm telling you, with baseball season here, let's all kind of go looking stylish and fit to the games there at Olson wearing the Snaps clothing. As a reminder, they are the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snaps maker out there. Their Tailgater collection is built for game day with breathable, moisture-wicking fabrics to keep you comfortable while you rep your Aggies in style. Now, whether you're watching the game from home or maybe you're in attendance, you're tailgating, whatever it may be, you got to make sure you head to snapsclothing.com to see everything they have to offer. It is fashionable, it is awesome, and you're going to love it.
And we're back, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, the Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Opie, it's time for 25 in 25, presented by La Casa Tequila.
La Casa Tequila, sí.
Raised in Aggieland, rooted in the SEC.
Okay.
You know, I don't drink tequila, but if I did, it would be in La Casa with La Casa.
Well, don't drive. Drink it in La Casa. Drink on mi casa.
I don't drive
mi
in my
casa,
house.
Su casa.
Ah, gracias.
Sí.
Do you know how to speak French?
Oui.
Comment vous appelez-vous?
Parlez-vous français?
Okay.
Sacre bleu.
Pardon? What'd you say?
Sacre bleu.
Sounded like you said something else.
We used to, we used to speak French around the house growing up all the time.
French fries?
No, we just speak French all the time. My mom would curse and say, "Oh, pardon my French." We were bilingual in East Texas.
Number 18 on 25 and 25 is Ryland Kennedy.
Ryland Kennedy. You talk about a guy with a lot of potential.
That's what it is,
that
right?
may be just about ready to break out. Let's hope.
Got a couple notes for him. Recorded a 76.0 pass rush grade over 103 pass snaps and ranked 5th highest on the team despite limited opportunities. PFF earned him the highest defensive grade at the Auburn game, which unfortunately they lost, with a 91.3 and then a 94.9 pressure grade in just 21 snaps.
Yeah, he didn't play a lot, but he did make himself known. I think he finished with 20 tackles. Not a bad total for his position and the little bit he played. He just saw his sack against LSU and then his sack dance. Almost had one against Texas. Got to clean that up. But I look at Ryland Kennedy as that guy that's plus. By the way, I think they called him 240 last year. He may be bigger than that.
Yep.
And Coach Elko said he's gotten 100 pounds stronger. So I think of him as this hawk that's chipping out of the way of the egg.
Yeah.
You know, and so you're seeing him getting out of that egg, and then before long, he's going to be swooping in on those quarterbacks.
He got to see some really high-level players play in front of him, and he also was able to contribute during that time. And when we talk about potential, like, let me ask you this. Cassius Howell, even though he had a nice resume before he got to Texas A&M, he was still unproven at the SEC level, right? And look what he's become. Let's use that same kind of thinking potentially with Ryland Kennedy.
Yeah, I mean, they could be that, you know, that those bookend ends that, you know, just create a lot of problems. I'm not saying they're Myles Garrett and anybody. I think that one year it was Myles Garrett and Deshaun Hall, because I'm not going to put that on anybody saying, "Oh, this guy's the next Myles Garrett." But I think both of those guys can get to the quarterback, and I think they'll be better at it. Coach Elko mentioned yesterday how not only Ryland Kennedy has made a big difference physically, but Cassius Howell has too. And to me, the only question about how is on run defense. I think he showed it over and over what he can do as a pass rush.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider how little time he was out there. And I think Ryland Kennedy, again, we saw the flashes, we saw the ability, we saw him get to the quarterback against LSU and get the sack. We saw him get to the quarterback against Texas, let one get by.
Yeah.
At our event at TexAgs kickoff on Saturday, Mike Elko told us that they looked back and there was 26 times that last year that A&M pass rushers had their hands on the quarterback and didn't get the sack. Well, Ryland Kennedy can be one of those guys that can go in there and change that. And, you know, if you get half of those, you go from 25 sacks last year to 38.
Yeah.
You could have one of the better pass rushers in the country.
And one of the things we're going to talk about in the next segment is finishing, because every player talks about finishing, right? And that means finishing everything. And I'll just bring it up here, like with children. Did Quinn ever not, like, he'd clean most of the dishes, but maybe not all the dishes, or you'd fold half the clothes, not all the clothes? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it's probably a bad analogy with me because, you know, I've already said before, every stereotype about a Mexican mom and her son applied. So Quinn didn't do jack. But
you understand my point.
I know
right?
where you're going.
I have wonderful children. In fact, one of them is upstairs, right? That sometimes when they clean dishes, they somehow leave a couple of dishes around the house. Like, why do we not clean that plate with ketchup on it? Like, why is it still there at the dinner table? Why didn't we? It has got to be a mindset. Everything's got to be done until completion.
I agree with that, and yet I've got this this image of David as a dad being very much like the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket.
There's no yelling.
Private Pile.
There's no yelling.
Why is there ketchup on this plate, Private Pile?
My my parenting style is probably more detrimental than that. My parenting style is overanalyzing the situation.
I'm joking because I see when your children, I'm amazed at how well behaved they are, especially as teenagers.
Well, that just means watch out in college.
Probably.
You're going to break through.
Probably it does.
All right, we're going to hit a break here. Daily Company, family-owned, licensed, insured business that offers HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and generator services. That's available to you 24/7, 365. When it comes to their generators, they can repair it. They can make sure it's all cleaned up. They can install it to ensure preparedness for power outages. They've got HVAC, thermostat repairs, refrigerant leaks, furnace failures, seasonal tune-ups. They can do electrical wiring for you, outlet repairs, upgrades for safety and efficiency. And on the plumbing side of things, you can have leak repairs, clogged drains, water heater installation, and maintenance to keep those pipes in top shape. They take care of all of Bryan College Station. They've got you in Houston. They got you in Austin with upfront pricing and no surprises. It's the Daily Company. Call them up, 979-2060-2020. That's 979-260-2020. Or visit them online at godaily.com to experience the daily difference. We're not taking it easy on the show today, OB.
No.
I'm going to give you the rundown.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see if you're still listening. Ralph Russo, 9 a.m.
I like Ralph. Good
I
friend.
do too. Mark Farris, 9:35.
I covered Mark Farris as a quarterback
Yeah?
for Texas A&M.
Yeah?
Yeah, up at Pittsburgh.
And Recruiting Country with Braunie. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And then-
I'm interested in all the recruiting news I can get.
And then the nicest guy in the Brazos Valley. There's a lot of them, but he's up there. He's in the top 3.
Logan Lee?
Nope.
Okay.
Andrew Monaco.
Andrew Monaco's a good dude.
Yeah. So that's the show today. I'm working on getting the Elmo, Monaco, and Will all together for a segment here before we start the season. I like getting those 3 before the year.
You know what? I once had a great conversation in the press box at Starkville, Mississippi with David Allendorf.
Yeah.
It was because I was such a Cowboys fan, and back in the 70s, he was playing for the Rams, and we just went back and reflected on memories of some of those matchups that he was playing in. It was just a great conversation. Just sitting back with a guy you watch play football and having a conversation about the games. Yeah.
Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Censor. Kaylee Dreyer, we got some text messages that have been coming in, addressing several of the topics we've had today.
Yeah. So David in Franklin says, based on the Aggies football history as a fan, would it be better to start the season with lower expectations and be happier if they exceed them, or start with higher expectations and be disappointed if they don't meet them?
None. How about just look? We all have. I think a lot of us have a defense mechanism. You don't want to believe they're going to be really good, so that you're pleasantly surprised afterwards, and then, or if they're bad, see, I told you, this is who we are.
Was that Dave in Franklin?
Yeah.
Dave, here's what you do. You go in open-minded. I get it. When A&M has been unranked or lower in the top 25, those are the years they typically have strong finishes, like 2020, 2012. When they're higher, like the last 2 times they opened the season ranked 6th, they had a bad year. So I get where he's going with that, but it's a new coach. Every year is a new year.
Yeah.
Just be open-minded.
Just enjoy the story.
Be open-minded.
Here's the deal. Last year, they probably did what we all thought they could do, 8-4, right? But the way they got to the 8-4 is what I think hurt, right? Because then as the season is developing, you start really believing, as you should. You're 7-1. You should believe there's a chance.
There was a chance. I mean, like you said, they're 7-1. They've just beaten a ranked top 10 Missouri and a top 10 LSU, and changed quarterbacks. You have all this momentum, and I felt really apprehensive about going to South Carolina because SEC road games. But I thought, they'll pull it out, and then that second half was a disaster. But I thought they'd absolutely go win at Auburn. Then they didn't, got behind 21-0 and came back. And what's funny is how many times the Aggies got off to a slow start, came back and regained the lead, and then just wasn't able to hold it.
Yep. Let's hear from Coach Elko on what is different. Year 2, I don't think the question is going to be on here, but basically I asked what's different on the eve of the first day of practice.
I think it's a buildup. I think the eve is the eve. I think at this point it's all just excitement and energy. The build-up, I think, is you're starting to look into, okay, like these 30 days, what do we have to do? What do we have to accomplish? How are we going to go about it? How are we going to tailor this camp format to this group? I just think you're working with so much more knowledge. And we've talked about that a lot this offseason, but I just think you have such a better feel for what this group is capable of, what this group needs, where it needs to get better. And so you're able to kind of really.
It's Mike Elko.
What this group is capable of. If you're close to them, like the coaches are, obviously you have a better idea. And he sounds like you said earlier, almost I don't want to say quiet because he just said it, but
it's confident, but
there's a confidence about that I find interesting. Man, if you could tell me right now that their defense is going to be top half of the SEC, then I'm saying that they're going to be a SEC championship contender if their defense is top half of the SEC. Because as I've said before, I'm not going to take it back. I think they're going to average 31 to 35 points a game offensively.
Yeah. The question is, how much better are the other teams you're facing this year than they were last year?
That Florida is going to be better.
LSU?
Auburn's going to be better.
I think LSU is going to be better.
Okay. I think they're about the same.
About the same as at home is, I guess, what.
Well, you play them at there, so that makes it more difficult for you. But LSU, to me, is probably going to be about the same.
Arkansas?
I don't think Arkansas is as good as they were last year.
No, they won 7 games last year. They're not going to be that good.
I don't think they're going to be as good.
Me neither.
But I think Auburn's going to be better. I think Florida will be better. You'd have to convince me why Arkansas is going to be better. You'd have to convince me why South Carolina is going to be better.
Do you remember?
You have to convince me why Texas is better.
Yeah. As good? Do that same operation as good?
That was one hellacious offensive line they had last year. 4 of them are gone, including a first-round draft choice.
Well,
just like LSU.
Well, I'm going to read you a quote from Chris Story.
All right.
The fact, he's talking about Arch, okay? The fact that he's coming in and not having any growing pains, I think, is a little naive. He said this on SEC Now. Particularly, you lose a couple guys up front. Kelvin Banks being one of those guys. A couple receivers as well. I think that's just a lot of pressure to put on him from the jump.
Yeah, I think there has been a lot of pressure put on him. I think it's unfair. I mean, again, I've seen Paul Feinbaum says he's the
greatest quarterback since Tim Tebow.
Yeah, and then I've seen him be number 1 on Heisman Trophy list. I'm saying, what do you base that? That's unfair to him. That's almost like, I hate to bring it up, but it's almost like the situation that Michael Early was in last year. Mm-hmm. If you don't win the Heisman Trophy, you're a failure. If you're not a great player, you're a failure. If you're just good or even really good, like if you have a season that was like one of the Kellen Mond seasons that were good but not great, then you're a failure. And as in your first year as a starter, I can understand that why some people would, like Chris Doran would say, hey, wait a minute, let's pump the brakes a little. Don't stop the belief in him, but pump the brakes on just how far he's going to go until he actually gets in the season and starts proving. Because if you base it on what he's done as a starting quarterback, or even as a reliever, I mean, he came in against A&M, ran for a touchdown. They had a package in for him.
Yep.
And he did that in a couple other games too, where he came in, had a special package for him, or he came in against a bad team and, in a blowout and had a big play. But in the 2 games he started, he had what I think you would call mediocre at best against ULM.
Yeah.
And he did well against Mississippi State. Mississippi State was the 16th team out of 16 in the SEC in defense. And when he played meaningful snaps against Georgia, he didn't play very well. A lot of teams didn't.
Yep.
A lot of quarterbacks didn't. So that's not on him. I'm just saying that what have you seen when he's actually playing extended time?
Would you put him in the upper half right now, though? You expect him to be top 8?
If I was doing my top, what do I usually do? Top 5, top 4? I got to go back and look. I don't have a problem with you saying, hey, I'm going to put him in the top 5, because there is a lot of potential there. Even though he's lost a lot of around him, they're still going to be
very talented. Yeah.
Talent. And if they are a championship team, caliber team, the very definition of a Heisman contender is the quarterback of a national championship team.
Yep.
So I don't want to have any problem with that. But when you start saying, hey, he's the best player since Tebow, and he's the best, he's the favorite to win the Heisman, I just think that's unfair to the kid himself.
Bringing it back to A&M, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, I think you had Marcel 6, probably, or in that range, 6, 7.
In the SEC?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd put him around 6. Again, if you put DJ Lagway up there, okay, I don't have a problem with that. But Marcel's numbers were actually better than Lagway's. Now, if you say, yeah, but I think Lagway is going to be better this year. Okay. So if I'm going to put Lagway 6, I don't see how you put Marcel any worse than 7.
Yeah, I think most people have Lagway like 3.
A lot of potential there.
Yeah.
But if you got Arch 1 and Lagway 3, so who you leaving out of 2?
Lenore's
or Nussmeier?
Nuss.
Because to me, if you're ranking them, you got to start with those 2 guys.
We got to hit a break here, but I have Nuss as my number 2 in the SEC. I think I have Lenore's, and that goes against what I've been saying. I don't think Lenore's is going to save South Carolina this year like they were able to last year, partially because of defense. That's not to say I don't think he's the best quarterback in the league right now. It's because of the pieces around him.
I just say if we're playing in the elementary school field, and you're picking, and you got first pick, who you taking?
I'm probably taking Lenore's.
There you go.
Let's talk about your organization or business that needs to engage with Aggies. And I know you guys do, so you need to reach out to the Association of Former Students, who brings Aggies of all ages together during marquee events held throughout the year. We're talking about Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo, The Gathering. They all welcome tens of thousands of guests, and there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities to get your brand in front of those attendees. They offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. And also they have title sponsorship, naming, on-site presence, activation, recognition, and social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. It is the Association of Former Students. All right, we're talking about Burlebo, the heart of Texas, more than an outdoor lifestyle brand. It's products created with you in mind. Currently, I'm wearing the performance polo, the Texas maroon and gray. If you look into it, you've got the state of Texas in gray, and you also got it in maroon. It's one of their highest, most popular sales that they have there. It is really nice. Comfort and versatility. You can wear it in any situation. Quick drying, fits the size. But Burlebo, they're rooted in tradition, fueled by passion for the outdoors. Designs high-quality apparel that works just as hard as you do. So whether you're hitting a workout, enjoying a day of fishing, or cheering on your favorite college team, their gear is made for the athlete, the outdoorsman, and the everyday adventure. And it's really nice. I wore this one to church the other day. People talked about it. Really, my kids were like, "Yeah, Dad, you look pretty good today." From athletic shorts to your favorite go-to tees and performance hoodies, they have everything you want. Check out burlebo.com and find your new favorite gear. It's Burlebo for the athlete, for the outdoors, and for the family. As a reminder, the final segment of the program brought to you by Double Dave's. That's the 1050. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. Kaylee Dreyer at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Commentary, super chats. What do we got?
So Ag Engineer 12 just had a birthday, and he says his wife booked a Disney cruise for the fam. Somehow that was his birthday present. And he says relevant on the super chat because it's apparently Marvel themed. And his first thought was Nuño would probably geek out to this.
Yeah, except I'm not a big fan of Pluto. And actually, Pluto's fine. There's Donald. Yeah, Donald's fine. Whatever. That's not why I like this commentary, OB. I don't think I've done 4 cruises in my life. Have you ever done one?
Yeah, I've been on 2.
Okay. And
2.5.
They're cool. I don't like the fact that you're like hostage for most of the time, but cruises are fine. I've watched 2 documentaries on cruises on Netflix over the last month, 6 weeks. I'm out. The poop cruise, don't need to get into specifics.
Yeah.
And Amy Bradley's missing.
Is that where they put the poop deck?
Have you seen the Amy Bradley one?
No.
Woman got vanished from the cruise. I don't know if she.
See, I thought you'd be all about those Carnival cruises because I see all the fights going on the Carnival cruises. I thought you'd be signing up for that.
Buddy, you know that I have not been in a fight since 1998. Somebody said 50-year-old man threatening. I don't threaten anybody. I'm just saying if you would, I would too. Anyway, no fights.
I know.
So no fights, no cruises.
No cruises.
And
unless you have a Christian cruise, then it would be like
that's my son's Christian and cruise.
I was thinking for like for believers, Christian cruise.
We are believers. All right, OB, thank you very much. First practice later on tonight.
We'll be there.
We will be there.
TexAgs will be there.
All right, next hour, Ralph Russo, Mark Farris. That and your text messages at 979-693.
1150.
There you go. It's TexAgs Live. All right, we're back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. And let's go. Oh, he is there. I was going to go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, but we're going to check in on the Buppy's Catering and Bartending Hotline. Our buddy, Ralph Russo, is joining the program. Ralph, how you been, my friend? Oh, no. We lost Ralph. There he is.
Oh, am I here?
Yeah, you're there.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm doing great. Listen, it's 90 degrees everywhere, but it definitely feels like football's in the air, right? As camps start. So this is an exciting time of the year. We spent a lot of the off season talking about, executive orders and bills trying to get through Congress and something called the College Sports Commission. And it's nice to start focusing on some football.
So, Ralph, I wanted to start off with something that apparently, I guess you haven't done before, was voting on the AP poll. How did that whole process? I'm always curious, everybody's like what they consider like their strategy. What was your strategy?
Yeah, so just to bring people up to speed, like I worked at the AP for 20 years, but AP employees do not vote. We just pick the voters, right? We put the poll together, we pick the panel, we administer the thing, we write about it, things along those lines. But now that I'm no longer with the AP, that I'm with the Athletic, they asked me if I wanted to be on the poll, and honestly, felt a little weird, frankly. Like you're doing something all your life, you sort of think of yourself in one mode when it comes to this thing, the poll, to sort of be on the other side of it was a little jarring, but also felt like, sure, let's give this a shot. Who's more qualified than me, right? I guess I should be more qualified as anybody. So process, tend to be a person who looks a lot at numbers. The SP Plus, FPI, all the different rating systems. So I used a compilation of those to build a pool of about 40 teams to consider and to put those teams into tiers of about 5 to 8, a number of 5 or 8 teams, right? I wasn't going to be married to the numbers, but it gave me like a good jumping off point. Here's 40 teams, and here's the basic general groups of 5 to 8 that these 40 teams should be in. So that was my starting off point. I've tried not to, for the preseason poll, project ahead too much. In other words, look at the schedule and say, okay, win, loss, because that doesn't necessarily at this point, I don't want to jump to conclusions. I want to sort of work with the information that we have. So I didn't necessarily do a lot of projecting of the schedule. And I tried to lean in places where I was making decisions toward certainty and okay, who do you got coming back, right? Do you have a question mark if I'm comparing two teams, if one has a question mark at quarterback and one has an established starter, more often than not, I'm probably going to go with the established starter in places where they have, again, fewer question marks. That is not necessarily 100% consistent. It is really hard to stay 100% consistent with all your, all of your, mile markers and things like that, the things that you're trying to adhere to, but do the best you can. I'm probably going to submit it right after I'm done with this conversation. I really need to get that done because the deadline's tomorrow. But it's been an interesting process and a lot of hemming and hawing and asking people for advice. And, it's weird. You do feel like you take on a massive responsibility, even though we're all just educated guessing.
It comes out, middle of August typically? Is that right?
I believe August 18th. Yeah, I used to be the one setting the date, but I think in the memo that they sent me now, it says August 18th.
Ralph, you've written about A&M a couple different times this summer. One of those, we chatted a little bit about the rivalry with A&M. What are some things maybe in this summer that you learned about A&M?
Yeah, well, listen, coming to College Station was definitely helpful. Sitting down with Mike Elko, getting to know some of the players more so Reed and talking to Trev Alberts. I think it was you're building off of a season that I understand ended disappointing, but it was hard not to look at last year and think mostly positive because of all the it was so tumultuous for the past few years. So I think we've talked about this a few times on and offline. This idea that, like, I think Elko's biggest goal in his first season was create some normalcy around this program. So then when you get a little closer to it, and sometimes, that can be good and bad. Sometimes when you get closer and you go visit a school, you sort of see the warts of the team. But also sometimes you convince yourself, wow, that guy's great and this guy's great. So I can fully admit that, like, when you get close to a team, sometimes it skews your perspective one way or the other. But it's hard not to come away thinking, wow, that might be one of the five best offensive lines in college football. We talk about certainty, right? It's an experienced, really talented offensive line to build around. Bring a couple of running backs back, Moss with good health. Hard not to be impressed by Marcel Reed. Right? As a player, I think he was very undervalued on the field. The numbers say he should have been mentioned with Lagway and Nussmeier and these guys, but he sort of got pushed to the side, and I think a lot of people thought of him, he's just the guy who ran a lot against LSU. So I came away pretty impressed. The defense that fell apart late last year, well, Elko tends to be pretty good at defense, so I can see that getting better. Where they fit in the SEC pecking order, I still don't think they are at the very top, which makes you like a top 5 team that could win a national championship. But if you're in the second tier, you're in contention for a playoff spot. So I could see that being the case again this year for the Aggies.
Yeah, I think, and I probably told you this before, Ralph, the way the season ended skews the way we look at Marcel. And if he has the wins that DJ Lagway had at the end of the year, we're talking differently about Marcel. And the Aggies, in my opinion, didn't lose because of Marcel.
No, I think you nailed it, right? And that was one of the things, again, I talk about like national perception because we are, I'm looking at this from afar. And we all saw the LSU game, and he runs wild and he completes 2 passes. He throws about 3 or 4 at most. I might be a little off there. So I think from a national perspective, everybody sees him and thinks, oh, that's the runner. And you're right. They lose to Auburn in a game where he plays well. They lose to the bowl game where he plays very well. So they lost a bunch of games where, as you said, like, he really wasn't the problem, but because they were a little off the radar, and then the big game that they had against Texas, well, Texas was better than Texas A&M last year, right? I mean, it was just like that's a difference between a team in year 4 of a build under a new administration that has it rolling and a team in year 1. So yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think what we saw of Reed is skewed by the fact that they lost a couple of games and A&M sort of faded a little bit from the spotlight at the time where Reed was actually playing pretty well. Now, he's not a finished product, but he, again, like, I like what you see. There's a lot to work with there.
And by the way, Marcel in that LSU game only threw 2 passes. He was 2 of 2 for 70 yards. So yeah, he was very efficient in those 2 passes. Ralph, I want to jump to something that came up earlier on the show, Jeremiah Love, and I think he's dynamic. I think he's great. Might be the best running back in college football, but I can't help to think what week 3 could look like, because I don't think Le'Veon was a finished product when they played here at Kyle Field week 1 of last year. And obviously there's some questions about how healthy Le'Veon is going to be. Mike says everybody's ready to go, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. But that matchup, if you're into like grinded out football, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, week 3, could be exactly that, should be exactly that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the game plays out a little bit like last year, right? With, I think, a better version of A&M. And if you want to spin it towards the A&M positive side of that, you look at all the problems Connor Wegman had last year in that game against a very good Notre Dame defense, a very good Notre Dame secondary, and you can convince yourself, well, Reed gives us options that Wegman didn't, right? Like, if it's hard to throw against Notre Dame again, and by the way, their secondary should be pretty darn good again. I don't know if it'll quite as good as last year, but it has the makings of being pretty darn good again. But I do see, like, that's a game that two of the best offensive lines in the country. My sense is you probably will end up with a somewhat similar, grind it out, very physical, win at the line of scrimmage, pop a couple of plays type of game. And you're right. Like, Le'Veon's a great player. If he's healthy, and we'll see how that matchup with Love goes. Notre Dame had the luxury last year of sort of limiting the pitches, putting Love on a bit of a pitch count, as to not wear him out. But that's a game where I could see them saying, you know what, big boy, we got to ride you today.
Yeah, the interesting part about Notre Dame being at home obviously is going to be in their factor. It's going to be in their favor. But I think the defensive line potentially isn't as strong. And I think C.J. Carr's a question mark, right? Like, he might be great, but week 3 of the season after coming off a Miami game, I'm very interested to see how he plays then.
Yeah, getting back to sort of the dynamic of ranking the preseason poll, I think Notre Dame is one of several interesting examples of why I think it's tough to sort of find. What's challenging about ranking the top of the poll this year, I think, or the top of college football, let's just say the top of college football this year, is a lot of very talented teams that we know will be good, but with questions at quarterback. We've never seen C.J. Carr. We've seen very little of Ty Simpson at Alabama, and what we've seen, not that great, really. But again, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that, what we saw at USF a couple of years ago is not necessarily the player we're going to see. Very little of Gunnar Stockton at Georgia, though he acquitted himself fairly well on a very big stage, but nonetheless, limited reps. Hell, even over in Austin, right? I mean, as much as we think Arch will do well because there's a lot of pedigree there and he's had 2 years to learn and what we've seen has been good. How well, right? Ohio State's another one. Sorry to go down the rabbit hole here. We haven't seen Julian Sayin throw a pass. Now, there's a lot of great reports on Julian Sayin, a 5-star quarterback, so we think he'll be good. But all that uncertainty with these highly talented rosters, I think creates an interesting dynamic going into a season where you're thinking, wow, that team should contend for a national championship or a playoff spot or a high seed, but nothing undermines a talented roster like a dysfunctional quarterback. Oregon's got a little bit of that too with Dante Moore. So I think that having that dynamic throughout the top of college football, I think creates a lot of interest in which way things can go and the possibility of some teams that may be emerging because they simply have better situations at quarterback.
Ralph, I think that's a great point, something we brought up on the show too. But I think that's why a veteran team in this, era of college football, but this particular season of college football, whoever that team is can take advantage of that, especially early on in the season.
Yeah, and listen, I think it's fair to call A&M at some spots a veteran team, right? I'd probably have to go back and look at the returning production numbers there, but I seem to remember the Aggies looking a little better than a lot of their SEC peers in terms of starts and returning production. Again, like I think of the offensive line is where my head goes immediately. And of course, it becomes a little tricky to measure those things in the portal era when you're bringing in new players and you're saying, well, but Casey Concepcion's been around the block, right? Like this is not a guy who is just, who they're relying on, who has no track record. So I think, right, as you said, having an experienced team in this day and age, listen, I think we've seen it to a certain degree with national champions. Ohio State brings all these players back. Yes, they're very talented players, but having that many players who are in their third and fourth years and maybe fifth years, Michigan did that too. I think Illinois, if we want to reach into the Big Ten, is trying to rely on that strategy. So, yeah, I think in today's day and age, I do wonder if you have a couple of more 21, 22, maybe 23-year-olds, how much of an advantage that is, and especially some continuity and not having to do like a major portal overhaul.
Talking to Ralph Russo here on TexAgs Live. Ralph, let's, by the way, A&M, I think, if I'm looking at the numbers correctly, returned 15 starters this year. So that just kind of gives you a feel for where they are. The DJ Lagway situation,
It looks like Billy Napier says he's day-to-day. I got to think it's not ideal. Like, it may not be a big deal, but it's not ideal, right? That we continuously talk about him having this or that.
It's a weird deal, right? Because we see this a lot in the NFL where we get like a lot closer to training camps. So every bruise and nick and the guy goes down becomes a big story. Right now, with college football, we're not around the players as much and around the practices, so we don't get a chance to sort of see when the injuries happen. But between the shoulder and between the walking boot, it's a kid who is still a relatively inexperienced player who hasn't had a normal off season to do what inexperienced players need to do to improve in an off season, right? Like the amount of work he has had and reps that he has had in an off season, like a Marcel Reed has had, DJ Lagway has not had that. So how much does that maybe stunt his growth? The other thing I would say, David, there's also a very real possibility that within the first couple of games of the season, we go, oh, that was much ado about nothing. Right. I mean, it's just impossible to understand exactly what impact this is having for a very talented player who all of a sudden we're in I think they play Miami week 2 or 3, and he goes off and you're like, boy, like we were really kind of worried about nothing, huh?
Yeah, talking to Ralph Russo. Ralph, I'm going to give you a couple teams that I find to be, I think A&M is higher than them, but it's close because of, I guess, history, the last year or so. But South Carolina and Auburn. I think A&M is better than them. Maybe I'm being a homer here. Should be better than them this year, okay?
Yeah.
I think, obviously Lenore Sellers is fantastic, but they lost a lot of production on that team. Defense is going to look different. Auburn is a question mark because I think they've upgraded the quarterback spot. They got elite wide receivers, but I just find that whole thing to be dysfunctional. How do you see those kind of tweener teams in the SEC that could be elite, but there are questions?
Yeah, I'm not really buying in on Auburn until I see it, especially with Jackson Arnold. They're a great example of, hey, if you don't get quarterback right, it can really undermine everything. And Auburn was probably a better team last year than the record said, but I want to see what exactly that looks like. So I would not say Auburn is ahead of A&M. Like, that's not in my discussion. It's funny. I come on your show every once in a while, David, and often I find myself thinking, like, am I just preaching to the choir here? Am I like giving like am I throwing red meat to the fan base here? Because I often find myself being somewhat optimistic about A&M, and I think I've also used this line. I feel like I'm the Michael Jordan of being wrong about A&M. Like I have often found myself being more positive, and then the season sort of goes awry. That was definitely the case under Jimbo. Kept thinking that like, hey, you got talent there, you'll turn it around eventually, and it never quite clicked. I definitely find myself yet again, I wasn't this way last year, but yet again being a little higher on A&M than I think the national perspective is, without giving away the ballot completely, which eventually will be out there. Like, I have A&M ahead of South Carolina. I look at South Carolina losing a lot on the defensive front. They still have some good players there, but losing a lot on a defensive front that was awesome last year. Still worried about, hey, how do you protect Lenoris? And how much of your offense, if you're South Carolina, is, hey, Lenoris, do something. Like, I was a little concerned that a lot of last year's resurgence by South Carolina is, hey, Lenoris, do something, figure it out. And he's a great talent, but I think there's limitations to that being the engine that drives your offense. So as far as I'm concerned, in the SEC pecking order, A&M is ahead of those two teams. But listen, it gets fuzzy in the middle there when you get into that A&M, Oklahoma, Florida. If you want to throw Auburn in there, I don't, but if you want to throw Auburn in there, that's okay. And South Carolina, like those four teams, A&M, Oklahoma, Florida, South Carolina, I'd sort of think of in a tier.
All right, I agree with that, and I'll let you go on this thought. When you were talking about A&M, I feel like you're talking about me talking about A&M because They've dubbed me here at TexAgs next year Nuño because that's what it feels like. Like at some point, I'm going to be talking about next year when I shouldn't. I should be talking about this year.
Yeah, and listen, I understand this is, and this is another thing I feel I'm going to harken back to. Like we've talked about this a little bit. Like I understand A&M folks after the Jimbo situation and after like what's happened over the last few years, the last two administrations. I understand that that's going to skew their perception of Elko. Nobody's here for, hey man, give me 2 years, give me 3 years, especially in today's college football where we see you can bake the pie a little more quickly. But I also don't know if that's terribly fair, right? To say in year 2, recruiting's going well, and in the SEC, you got to build a couple of classes here. It's what Billy Napier sort of got wrong, right? He was right in the sense that you need to stack classes. But in the new college football, you better do some other things to help supercharge this and move it along. We can't be taking 3 or 4 years. We got to see results sooner. So I understand like people want to see results sooner with Elko, but this does seem to be a team that right now is not built for to compete at the top of the SEC, but maybe by next year with another highly rated class, now you're in that mix. And again, I understand like nobody's here for another like wait till next year. They want to see the Aggies compete now. But again, to me, this is more of a second tier SEC team, which still means you can make the playoff, by the way.
Ralph, great stuff, man. Thanks for always making time for us.
Always a pleasure, David. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Ralph Russo, one of my favorites there from The Athletic. Great work. We'll hit a break here. We'll come back. Short segment. We're going to go through some of that returning production. I'm going to give some notes to Kaylee to read to us so we can kind of just absorb what Ralph was talking about when it comes to A&M and the rest of the peers in the SEC and the rest of college football. A moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. If you're a business owner and you're ready to take your operation to the next level, Caldwell Country Chevrolet is always expanding their awesome selection of commercial vehicles to meet your every need, from service body trucks to heavy-duty trucks to medium-duty trucks. They can handle those tough jobs. They've got it all there, and they have the muscle to help out your business demands. They're a newly designated business elite dealer. They understand what it takes to keep your company moving forward. And remember, every vehicle that you purchase from Caldwell Country Chevrolet comes with a legendary free oil change for life because they believe in supporting local businesses just like yours. And they believe in supporting Aggie athletics as well. It's about a 15-minute drive. The edge of Bryan, beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. Hey everyone, David Nuño and Olin Buchanan and OB. Typically we start off the show in this section and we call it the holistic planning
The cool zone, yeah. It's pretty cool.
What do we know about holistic planning?
Well, a lot of cool stuff. For instance, holistic planning can help you with your investments.
I love that.
They can help you with your taxes. So
I don't like paying taxes.
You can get that money from your investments and they keep it, they'll help you keep it away from the government.
Yep.
Not all of it, but more of it. And then they'll even help you with your estate planning. When you're old like me, you got to make sure some of that money you made is there for when you want to retire and just enjoy the rest of your life.
You want your estate to be planned. But they also do something else.
Yeah, well, if you are, like, say, a sports fan, and you've always wanted to...
Everybody watching us, right?
Yeah. And you want to always dream of being an owner, well, in a certain way you can, because they will broker the deal for you to invest in pro sports.
Yeah, what you need to do is check out investinprosports.com. That's where you can get all the information if you want to invest in a team. I don't know what team. He'd probably try to buy the Cowboys. I try to buy a lot of the Houston teams. Whatever it may be, investinprosports.com. It is holistic planning, and we love hanging out at the Holistic Planning Cool Zone. Staying alive here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. We go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Have you ever watched the movie Staying Alive?
No.
Have you ever watched the movie?
No.
Ever?
Oh, watched a movie?
Yeah,
yes.
You're not a movie person. You're a sports person.
Yeah, we talk about this, I feel like, every time I'm on the Social Center.
Well, because I
don't
make references to things that Americans should know. Okay? Americans should know John Travolta and Staying Alive.
I know the song. I've
Who
never
sings it?
seen the movie.
Okay. I don't know why I'm doing this. So we, a moment ago, said we're going to talk about, Ralph brought up returning production, and I believe A&M has the highest in the SEC. I might be wrong, but I believe they do. CBS Sports has an article with all the teams. Give us kind of where A&M lands on the list in all of college football, and then we'll kind of geo-target it to the SEC.
So on this list, it's all of the Power Four plus Notre Dame, and it's all of their returning starters and how many they are returning. Arizona State with the most, that being 17.
Had a nice run last year.
Yeah, so they also returned the most starters on defense after, obviously, their Big 12 title and then their college football playoff berth. And A&M does have the most returning starters in the SEC at 15.
So they're, I think, what, third or fourth on the list?
They're fourth.
Okay.
And Illinois has 16 and Clemson has 16. So those three are above A&M. And then right below them is Alabama. And then we start getting into all of the other SEC schools. But it does say on here, Florida, Michigan, and Texas A&M aren't among the 10 teams with the shortest title odds, but all return at least 11 starters.
Yeah, I'm not talking title when I'm talking about the kind of year. I mean, look, you get invited to the tournament, of course we're going to talk title. You go 7-1 and you have a chance to win the SEC, of course we're going to talk about it. But like sitting here on July the 30th, we've got, it lists on the defensive side, Regis returning, Torian returning, Scooby returning, Will Lee returning, Des Ricks returning, Bryce Anderson, Dalton Brooks, Marcus Radcliffe. And the cool thing is, we're not even sure some of those guys if they're going to start, right? Because there is more competition this year. On the offensive side, Marcel's return, Le'Veon's return, Trey Zune, Chase Basantis, Coley, who may not even start at center, Armage, Demetrius Crownover. Like, that is
a lot, yeah.
Now, wide receiver, nobody who started last year is coming back. That being said, I still think it's going to be a position of strength for A&M.
Especially with all the incoming transfers. But as I said, this article is just saying that it aligns Texas A&M with the experience profile of recent champions with their 11 starters.
Recent champions in college football? Or recent, it just says recent champions? Okay. Where's Notre Dame on that list? Did you see them on there?
Yes.
I'll scroll with you. How about that? Let's do some scrolling, because they're not as high as they're not that off, but I had to scroll for a while. 11 returning starters. On the defensive line, I'm going to read you the names, okay? Well, I'm going to read you the defense. Burnham, Drake Bowen, linebacker Jalen Sneed, Christian Gray, cornerbacks Leonard Moore, who's awesome, and Aiden Schuler. Offensively, Jeremiah Love, Jaden Greathouse, who's going to be a problem. He's going to be a problem. He was a problem at the end of last year. He's going to be a problem. And then, 3 offensive linemen coming back. A lot of people.
I believe Notre Dame is sitting at 23 on this list, if I count
you counted them all?
I was trying to count, but pretty sure they're sitting at 23 with 11 starters. And then last on this list is Purdue with 1 returning.
I have no idea what Chris is saying to me. Say it again, buddy. Okay, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with Mark Farris on the other side. When insurance matters most, who's going to answer your call? That's Rollo Insurance. They answer my call. They answer my text. I'll answer yours as well. They build lasting relationships through education, helping many of you understand what you're buying and the reason behind it, with expertise in everything from home to auto to business and specialty coverage. Their independent agents provide options tailored to your specific needs. They take time to explain that policy in detailed, plain language, ensuring you're never left wondering about what your coverage will give you. Their educational approach empowers you to make the right informed decision. Many of their clients discover better protection at competitive rates simply because they finally understand their options. Call them up at 888-44-ROLLO. That is 888-44-ROLLO, or visit them online, rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. That is rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. And we're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Puppy's Catering and Bartending Hotline. Our guest is Mark Farris. Played in A&M not a long time ago because I graduated a long time ago, and he played after me. Mark, what's up, buddy?
Not much, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining us. And I wanted to talk about a little bit about your time at A&M and your time in college athletics and kind of compare it to now. And not necessarily NIL, but just how different the world is. But you had a unique path to A&M and an awesome path. Kind of take us through your decision to not necessarily go to college right away, to go try baseball for a bit.
Yeah, so kind of a long story. I'll try to shorten it as much as I can. So I got, I'd signed to play at A&M. That's back when, this is so long ago, everybody signed in January, February, and then you went to A&M and, the next fall or whatever. Everything's changed, obviously, nowadays. But so my story is I signed in February, ended up becoming a high draft pick, June. That's back when the baseball draft, that's changed too. The baseball draft was June 2nd or 3rd or something. Ended up being a high draft pick. And really with where I was drafted, it wasn't much of a choice to be made, honestly, in my opinion. I had to go play baseball, at least give it a shot. And so my problem with baseball was I was always kind of had one eye on trying to play football still. Got to AA my last year and had a good year, had about 280 and, was moving my way up and kind of had a chance to probably make it. I was in the Pirates organization, Pittsburgh. And then from there, I played. What happened was my last year, I played with a couple of guys that were probably, they were 23 or 24, maybe a little older than that, 25. And they were, having to go get jobs in the off season and, whatnot. And it kind of got me to the point where I was like, man, I really want to go back and get my education, if nothing else, and make sure I can, that I'm good if something happens, I have my education. And started talking to Coach Slocum and worked out a way to come back. And I started in January of 99 and, finished up in 02. But kind of a funny thing, little known story about me is that, I was never on scholarship. People don't realize that. I was never a scholarship football player at A&M. Because once you were, I don't know how that's changed now, but once you're a professional athlete in any sport, you can't be a scholarship athlete. So they probably changed all that now. But so that was kind of a unique thing about me being there is when the scholarship guys would go do something, I wasn't included in that. It was just a funny little technicality. You're starting quarterback at a major Division I school in Big 12, and you're technically not on scholarship. Basically, the way they get around that is Major League Baseball provides a scholarship. Where if you want to go back to school, my parents were in that. Every dollar I ever got, everything I ever ate as a kid was because of education. My dad was an administrator, mom was a teacher, so we made sure we set my contract up where I had a bunch of money if I wanted to go back to school. So it all worked out good. But technically, I was a walk-on football player.
It's a fascinating story too, and I wonder how much did you learn being in a professional clubhouse, how to be a professional, if you will, at the collegiate ranks. So when able to process information, set your schedule. I assume you were a leg up on some of the younger guys.
Yeah, it was definitely gave me a leg up, I think, and the way it all set up. Because people don't realize you play professional baseball. There's a game every freaking day, man. I mean, you almost in minor league baseball you have less off days. Major League Baseball they work in a collective bargaining agreement. They have an off day a week and all that. Man, minor league baseball. I tell my buddies when we're talking about it, man. There's times you have a game every day for 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, so. You learned about the grind. You learned that every day counts. That's one thing when I came back. I purposely started in the spring of '99 because I wanted to get my feet under me and get kind of back used to doing football. And you learn that every day counted. Where I think some young guys they don't realize that practice matters and the coaches are watching. And at that level at A&M, I don't care if it's 50 years ago, 20 years ago now. Every piece of practice tape's getting graded by somebody. A GA's looking at it, he's sending it over to your position coach, the offense coordinator, the defense coordinator, they're looking at it. So it's, it helped me kind of realize that every day counted and you had to compete every day because you're doing it for a living. You find out real quick in baseball, professional baseball, that every day matters, dude. You're in competition every day. If you're not, you're going to be going home. So, yeah, it definitely helped me. I was competing with some young guys when I was a freshman. I'm a 23-year-old freshman. I'm competing with, a couple of younger guys. It definitely, I think, gave me a leg up because I understood competing. I competed for 4 or 5 years, playing baseball. So it definitely helped me.
What about socially? Was it awkward? 18, 19-year-old guys wanting to go to the tap? Did you hang out with the older guys? How was that?
Yeah, it was a little different on that. Yeah, the older guys, I was basically the same age as guys, Randy McCown and guys like that kind of were senior type guys, Matt Bumgarner, guys like that when I first came in. I probably palled around with them a little more, but, I was married and had a kid, and so for me, it was a little bit different. I wasn't going out a lot, but I think I did a pretty good job of fitting in because I've been on a lot of buses, right? I've been on a lot of buses and in a lot of locker rooms with guys that were 18, 20, 22, 23. I think I fit in there, but yeah, the social life afterwards, it was probably a little bit different because I was probably going home and they were going out to like you said, the tap or the chicken or whatever. But as far as the locker room, I think I fit in real well because I'd been doing that. So it was really no adjustment. Just instead of doing with a bunch of semi out of shape baseball guys, you're doing with a bunch of guys that are in shape playing football.
So let's talk about some of the quarterback rooms you were part of. Some really big names that Aggies always remember. Talk about some of those relationships. You mentioned Randy. I think you were there with Reggie for a little bit, right?
Yeah, very end, yeah. Dustin Long ended up playing quite a bit of football at A&M before he transferred. Randy was the first guy. When I came in, he was a senior, I believe, and I ended up working my way in and becoming the backup that year under him. So I learned a whole bunch from Randy. It's kind of, like you said, it was just kind of funny stuff, how life works out. Randy and I were probably about the same age. I might have even been just a hair older than him. I think he was a fifth-year senior guy, so we were probably real close to the same age. But learned a bunch from Randy, and then at the end, tie that in with Colby Freeman was in there in the middle somewhere. If Aggies that are diehard people would remember Colby's name, he's a big recruit that came in, and then at the end it was kind of a Reggie McNeil, Dustin Long kind of combo. Probably the last year or two I was there, so that's kind of the list of guys that were there when I was there. But those times I wouldn't trade for anything. It was quarterback room meeting. The quarterback coach when I got there was Ray Dorr. Ended up dying of Lou Gehrig's disease about a year after I got there. So just things that tie in and teach you about life, and I have nothing but good things to say about him. Any success I might have had was because of Ray Dorr. That guy was unbelievable football coach. And then, like I said, a lot of Aggies probably know he passed away of ALS about a year and a half after I got there. But great coach. So there's guys, Steve Cragthorpe actually, who just passed away also here in the last year or two. I think he had Parkinson's, but those are a couple of coaches that really, really took me under their wing and worked with me. But lot of names, man, a lot of memories.
Talking to Mark Farris here on TexAgs Live. Mark, I want to ask you about some of your favorite on-the-field memories, and do any of them include Jeff Fuller?
What's that?
Jeff Fuller. Do any of your favorite memories on the field include Jeff Fuller?
More of mine include Robert Ferguson.
Robert Ferguson, yeah.
Robert Ferguson, my first year there, that guy was a freaking beast, man. He ended up not doing as much. He had some injury stuff when he got to the NFL, but great player. Stuff on the field. A bunch of great guys I played with. I think of my center, first year or two I was there with Seth McKinney, guys like that. It was Bethel Johnson, a real speedster, Dwayne Goins. We had a pretty damn good receiving core, man. That was fun to, you go from high school and playing with it. You usually have a guy or two that you can trust throwing the ball to and a guy that can go get it. And then you get to a place like that and pretty much every guy that's signing up, the guys I mentioned, Ferguson, Terrence Murphy, guys like that, and you throw it out there and just let them work. So anyway, we had it's a lot of good memories tied up in guys you played with for sure. Too many linemen to mention, but like I said, Seth McKinney's the one that comes to mind. Yeah. Your quarterback, your center. So Seth and I got pretty close that year or two. We overlapped. So, but a lot of good memories, man. And on the defensive side too, too many good names to mention, but Royland Bradley, Terrence Keel, who sadly passed away here a few years ago, guys like that, just too many guys to mention.
Yeah. And I got my notes crossed, but I'm trying to think back to your play with Robert against Wyoming. Was it 93-yard bomb that
We were going north, coming out of the south end, coming out. We always called it going in on offense. Well, even if you're coming out, you were going in the other way, right? Just talking like an offensive guy. We were coming out of the south end zone. I think it was a post, I want to say. I think it was either a post or a fly. I can't remember which one, but I do remember him running down the field. So that was a lot of fun. I was a pretty reserved guy. I wasn't a real rah-rah, let's go crazy, but I like to get pretty excited when, it's hard to score, man. So a lot of times you're running down the field 100 yards, probably not quite as fast as the receiver was, but those are things you remember. There's another play that sticks out was Dwayne Goins. One of my favorite games we had there was Iowa State. We played on the road. That was when Iowa State first kind of really got it going. Dan McCarney was their coach. They had a quarterback, played in the NFL, real athletic guy. Name escapes me now, but they had really gotten it going. And we went up there, and it was like their homecoming, and we're watching that on the news the night before how big of a game it was. Man, we came in and just had a great game. I remember Dwayne Goins caught a long touchdown pass. He was a track guy, speedster guy. Remember running down the field and, just having a lot of fun that game. So there's stuff that sticks out, that you remember. Obviously, for a quarterback catching a touchdown pass against Notre Dame, that's and just thanking God, please don't drop this. The ball seemed like it was in the air for 10 minutes. So, stuff that sticks out, man. Good memories. Life goes on. You get busy working and all that, and raising kids and having a family and all that. But man, life, it's nice to think back on those times, talking about it with you.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, let's look ahead here. I only got a couple minutes, but what do you think about what Coach Elko's trying to do here at A&M and the program he's building?
Yeah, man, I've really enjoyed watching. I think last year it just kind of got away with him there at the end. But, man, there was a time, 8th or 9th or 10th game of the year, and I'm telling my buddies, man, A&M may win the SEC. Man, A&M may go to the SEC championship game. And that was like a huge, it's been a while since we've kind of been in that side of the talk, right, when it comes to the conference. But, I think he's got to go in the right direction. Like I said, the way sports work, and especially college football, because everyone wants the information now. What's everybody doing? But it gets to the final record, you forget how the year went. But a couple of plays, and dude, they're winning 9, 10, 11 games. Even the bowl game against SC got away from them. They should have won that game. But you look 2 or 3 plays in a game here or there, and they're winning probably 10 or 11 games. So I think they're right there. They keep recruiting like they are. I really think Marcel Reed matures a little bit. I think the defense it kind of fell off the end of the year. That's not going to be the case with Elko. He's the defensive guy. They're going to be fine on defense. So I think they have a chance to have a really good year. Obviously, the schedule's pretty tough, but I think they're going to be fine. I think he's got to go in the right direction. They'll be fine.
Mark, I really enjoyed this conversation. Let's do it again during the season, okay?
For sure, man. Look me up.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Okay. Yeah, man.
Mark Farris there on the Bubby's Catering Bartending Hotline. Great conversation. We'll hit a break here, open segment on the other side. Then we'll talk to Bronny for recruiting country. Milliken Reserve farm-to-table community in College Station. They've got homes, they got trails, they got farms, they got wide open spaces with a mission to build a healthy community around nature. If you haven't been there, you're missing out. Great place just to be out in the outdoors. You want to go walk in there, you want to go biking, you want to go kayaking, you want to go hiking, equestrian trails, evening yoga. They've got it all when you go to Milliken Reserve, and they have all the animals you can imagine, from the white-tailed deer to the songbirds, the rabbits, the turtles. I said that really fast, by the way. And homeowners at Milliken Reserve sharing a legacy of conservation, which means generation after generation, you're coming back to that pristine countryside place, an enduring resource and a place to come together to relax and reflect, to explore and discover. Check out the website to learn more. MillikenReserve.com. That is MillikenReserve.com. All right, guys, let's talk about some new partners. Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. They're Aggie owned and operated. They are an mobile IV hydration company that was founded back in 2024. I met with Sheldon and Danny over the last week, and they're awesome people. They really know what they're doing. They're proud to serve Bryan College Station with awesome services like IV hydration, Botox, and even some weight loss options. Whether you're looking for a quick boost of hydration or dehydration preventative, they can tailor an IV cocktail specific to your needs. And on a busy weekend, I know some of you guys might be partying a little bit too much. If that's the case, an IV can be one of the easiest ways to ensure you're receiving all those necessary vitamins and minerals that make you feel better. Their overall mission is to bring a more personalized and accessible wellness option to the broader range of clientele here in the Bryan College Station and Brazos Valley area. To book an appointment or inquire about it, just call them up or text them. 979-217-1561. Again, it's Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. Check them out. It's our friends at Aggieland Hydration and Injectables.
TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Love that conversation with Mark Farris. Really appreciate that. In fact, we're going to continue having some big-time names on the show. Looks like Kay just found out that Ricky Seals-Jones is going to be joining us on Monday. I'm working on Bucky for maybe this week or next week. The Bucky. Well, the other Bucky. There's two. Hey, there's two Aggie Buckies now. Bucky McMillan and Bucky Richardson. Working on Bucky Richardson on TexAgs Live. Kaylee, what do you got?
We do have a note from track and field. They will be represented by a group of 15 athletes consisting of 10 pros and 5 student athletes from the 2025 roster at the USA Track and Field Championships beginning tomorrow through August 3rd. The collegiate group features 5 All-Americans from the 2025 season, those being Jaqueline Scott, Jasmine Montgomery, Cooper Cawthra, Bryce McCray, and Kennedy Wade. These 5 people accounted for 8 broken school records and 8 conference medals, as well as 10 All-America honors.
That's great stuff. I know you had one more note for us.
We do have one volleyball note. Texas A&M Volleyball's Afina Kozak-Paula was named to the U.S. Women's U23 national team. She earned her first national team competition selection as she and 11 other athletes make the trip to Mexico for the United States' first U23 Pan American Cup appearance.
Awesome stuff. Thank you very much. So we're going to have recruiting country here shortly, and Train Shiner's already got a question in. So if you got a question for Bronny, you can do it at 979-693-1150. A couple things that we're working on for the 10 o'clock hour. As I mentioned, we are going to be doing recruiting country, brought to you by American Momentum Bank. After that, the great Andrew Monaco. Always feel better about life when Andrew Monaco's around. One of my favorite people. So we'll have Andrew in studio. And look, football practice starts today. And I've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed, Kaylee, a little more interest, right?
The vibes are up.
The vibes are up, but like people are like, friendly. They're opening the door for you when you walk in. Like, they'll get you your coffee. They're just, people are nicer right now. It's
football season.
It is football season. So we'll have our team at practice later on tonight. I think it's a 6:30, 6:40-ish, right? So we'll have stuff, and I know the presser is not until like 8:45. So we'll have a lot of stuff for you, and it'll be fresh stuff for tomorrow morning show because, I go to bed early, just saying. All right, let's do this. Let's open up the phone lines for those questions for Bronny at 979-693-1150. If you call that number, that's the Buppy's Catering and Bartending Hotline. But if you text it, we'll get those questions into Bronny. You can do it on the YouTube page and on the TexAgs Super Chat. It's TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. And we're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Recruiting Country, brought to you by American Momentum Bank. Ryan Brauninger's in studio.
Which one of your twin sons did I see this morning?
Christian, the one who doesn't talk as much.
He gave me a dap on his way out the door.
Did he? Okay, good.
He said, "Hey, Bronny," gave me a dap. I said, "What are you doing here?" And then he said something that I couldn't hear because he's very
he mumbles.
And it wasn't just he was walking out, and it looked like he was maybe going to work.
He was going to CC Creations right down the road.
Was he driving or was he running?
I was going to make him walk. There was no extra people in the lobby.
I could have brought him.
He didn't ask you.
Boy.
He could have asked you.
But is he the former cross country one?
They both were.
Okay. So it's half a mile is no big deal.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to go to work sweaty though.
I do it every morning.
This is true.
Thinking about that, I've got to come in here and deal with the likes of you and Olin and Richard. And really, I feel like you should come in here sweaty, or anybody that hosts a radio show should come in here sweaty, or at least sweating for the 8 o'clock hour. Because you just never know what's going to come out of that.
Well, this is true.
Toxic mouth and toxic brain of Olin Buchanan.
This is true. That's why some of us do our sweating before the show, so we can get it all out. Yeah,
you don't go to the gym that early.
Who said it? See, some people have narrow track mind about thinking about fitness in just one way.
We're going to go down this aisle again.
There's called running. There's called swimming. There's called martial arts. There's called mobility.
You do all that before the show?
Not all of it. I choose one typically.
Okay. I've been going on 40-minute walks in the morning with our dog as soon as I get up.
Very therapeutic.
Yeah, and it's a great time to walk your animal. A lot of people out, at least in South College Station neighborhoods, but it was very cool this morning. And our dog has had I think she's had a heat episode from us throwing the ball in the afternoon. There was one time we kind of freaked out. She kind of passed out whenever she came inside, and we had to spray her down with water and put the fans on her. And I just wonder if dogs are like humans in the fact that if you have one heat-related episode, you're prone to have more.
Prone to have more, yeah.
So if I take her out to walk in the afternoon when I get home from work, she can only 5 minutes and she's already panting and ready to go back. And so in the mornings, though, with 30 minutes, no problem. So I think that's something I'm going to continue. But I'm also of the opinion that just because you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning doesn't mean that you're outworking somebody. I think the intent and the amount of effort that you put out when you work is more important than the time that you work.
Except if you're doing work throughout the day and you started earlier, you're doing more work.
It depends on
unless you go to bed super late.
Effort. Right.
Yeah. But I think the mindset, we don't need to go down this path. The mindset of somebody who wakes up with an intention, I think surpasses those who are I'll get to it after lunch.
Hey, Kaylee's got one of our sponsored energy drinks on the desk. Catalyst Energy sponsoring in-home visits, which is a good segue into Recruiting Country, which is presented by American Momentum Bank.
Well, do we want to start with Evan Jacobson?
Sure, we can. I don't think we've talked about him on air since he committed, right? It was last Friday. And this is a huge feather in the cap of Mike Elko, Colin Klein, and Christian Ellsworth. All of those put their fair share of time and effort into that recruitment. And look, this is a kid that when you look at athletic profiles at the tight end position, checks all the elite boxes. Yep. And I think what may have been, I'm not talking about holding him back in terms of his overall projectability or potential at the position, but what may be holding his rating back is that he is such a quality basketball player that he is spending time between two sports legitimately right now, and two sports that cross over a lot in terms of their area of the calendar. So he's 6'7", almost 6'8", in that range, and he's still slight. He's still very gangly because of the basketball stuff. But I talked to him on the phone after his commitment and got some quotes from him, and he credited Bucky McMillan and the basketball staff for kind of putting in the work to complement what Mike Elko and company were doing on the football side. And I think he's going to have an opportunity to play both, at least early in his career, and kind of see how that time management piece works. And if he can do it. But so what I mean by that is he's 6'7", 220 pounds, 230 pounds. If this kid was 6'7", 245 because he had been nothing but football and football weights and nutrition year round, I think his overall rating as a prospect goes even higher. But like we've said so much this cycle, and they are getting high caliber players. We're going to talk about one in a minute in Tank Jones. They are also not beholden to just 5-star status. What are they beholden to? They're beholden to their formula, which incorporates measurables and a lot of other things, how they identify prospects, right? And it's some of them, or a lot of them, there is some crossover between, high 4-star, 5-star player and what they value. But some of them, like KK Johnson, like Evan Jacobson, there's a little bit more to, like, the staff holds them in higher regard maybe than some of the national recruiting folks do.
Yeah. So let's envision what he looks like. And he hasn't made up his mind if he wants to play 2 sports, correct?
It's on the table, but I think it's got to still be discussed. It's no different than Marco Jones in baseball.
Right.
And Marco Jones, I have no idea if he's going to play baseball this coming spring, but he'll have a much better idea of how he's going to be able to handle it after this fall on the football field.
So let's talk about the tight end group overall. The last, this last year and a half, 2 years of how the group is kind of filling out.
Well, they brought in just one last year in Chiati, and all the returns that we've heard about Chiati so far have been exceptional. And Chiati is an elite athlete, but he was further along physically than even KK Johnson or Evan Jacobson. Chiati was just more filled out, and you go out there and you look at him, and y'all get some eyeballs on him today. He's going to look not like a freshman. Like, he's going to fit in with a room of tight ends of guys that have been in college football for a while. So you start there with Chiati, and then in this class, KK Johnson, that's where we're kind of pigeonholing him, but he's truly an athlete. He's playing quarterback at one of the most elite high school programs in the city of Houston, kind of moving toward the tight end direction. But, I don't even want to say that A&M has got 3 tight ends in this class, because KK is truly an athlete that could play tight end. But what happens if he puts his hand in the dirt and starts rushing a passer? Like, he's got those skill sets too. Yep. And then Caleb Tafua on the West Coast. So for Jacobson as a tight end and looking at the position going forward, what they've added is, I think Tafua is a little bit of a different type of player. Like KK, if that's where he goes, and Evan are long, fluid athletes with basketball backgrounds. Tafua is a big kid, but he's more sturdy. Like, it's less about the fluidity of athleticism and more about his physicality, I think, right now. And you have to feel really good, because the role that the tight end plays in Colin Klein offenses. Didn't see it as much last year, but was a little limited in what he had. But Trey Watson had a bunch of big catches. You look at Theo's impact, especially like in the Florida game with the big touchdown. So we know that Colin Klein ideally wants to incorporate that positions in a lot of different ways. And in order for him, I think, to fully utilize the arsenal of what he's got offensively for that position, he needs these different skill sets to do it. And the most successful tight end that he's had in his offenses was Ben Sinnett at Kansas State, who wore number 34 and looked more like a fullback.
Right.
So I think ideally he is collecting these type of bodies that he can do different things with, and that you see that with Chiati and then in this class as well.
How are things trending with Tank Jones?
Yeah, I feel like A&M's in a very good spot. I've been kind of out front on that one. Had some pretty good sourcing on it so far. Here's what you don't know, and it's not just with Tank Jones. It's like with Lamar Brown as well. When you're going and recruiting these 5-star caliber players from states that have superpowers in them, and Alabama's a little bit different than Louisiana, because Louisiana has one.
Right.
And every kid that grows up in that state,
they want to go to LSU.
They want to go to LSU. Or Alabama, you've got Auburn still, and Auburn's been hugely successful over the last, really since the turn of the century, where they have a national championship and another appearance. So Auburn is a legit threat in that state as well. But what's been interesting for Tank, and here's to go back to my point, what you don't know is, like, below the surface level and below what you're being told, what's happening. Is there a big Bama contingent making moves behind the scenes?
Sure.
And for a kid from Mobile, for Kalen DeBoer, I think you're looking at that and going, man, if we let him go to A&M, even if it's just a verbal commitment, that's a pretty big gut punch on a national scale. And everybody knows we want this kid. So how much of that pressure is ramping up behind the scenes for Bama to make a late push? There's been a lot of talk about Oregon. I just don't think Oregon is a legitimate player, only due to the fact of their location.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy to get from Mobile, Alabama to Eugene, Oregon. It takes a while. Tank has got a younger brother who's active in sports, and I would think the family wants to be around during the week for his younger brother's stuff, and then they can go. see Tank play on Saturdays. And if he's in the Pacific Northwest and he's flying all across the country,
6-hour flight probably.
How do you get there? You got to go probably from Mobile to Dallas to Portland, then drive from Portland to Eugene. I don't know. Whereas if he's at Texas A&M or even Tuscaloosa, you get in the car and drive, and from Mobile to Houston's a short flight. And then you hop on in a car and you're in College Station probably in 4 hours, 5 hours total.
Right.
So I think the proximity for A&M and Alabama lends me to believe. This is my opinion. This isn't based off any type of real intel. I just think those are the two main players because of that. And A&M has been really consistent here. And everybody you talk to, they talk about A&M's chances, the legitimacy of him, giving his verbal commitment to Texas A&M, so much so that you can't ignore it. You just have this, much like with Lamar Brown, it was always something in the back of your mind saying, is this kid really going to pick A&M over LSU for Lamar? I feel that a little bit creeping in for Tank Jones. It's just to a lesser extent because, again, some of the sourcing I've gotten on this has said Tank has never been dead set on staying in the state of Alabama to play college football. He really hasn't. And Bama, they fired some big bullet. They fired the Saban bullet at this deal, so if A&M has maintained a good grasp on the recruitment, even through all that, it becomes more and more legit. Now, getting his verbal pledge is different than getting him on campus.
Right.
And that's the same, but A&M has fought these battles in the class of 2025. When you look in the state of California and what they were able to bring in, they had to fight these battles with Noah McHale and Marco Jones and Jamar Bill Goins and Adonis Curry. This class obviously spread out across the country from coast to coast. They're going to have to fight these battles in season. Like, you've got them committed, you got to get them to the finish line. But it's a lot easier to get a fish in the boat once you've got him on the line, rather than not ever hooking him. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. Is it? I don't want to call it dangerous. I don't know if that's the right word, but it seems scary when you're spread across the country. I just feel like it just seems like
there's inherent risk with it.
Yeah, there you go. Risk is the right word.
But you got to give up something to get something, right? Yeah. And if you feel like there's just not enough in the state of Texas to, in a cycle for you to complete a class where it's predominantly Texans, and I still think it will be compared to other states, but where 75% of your class are Texas kids, then you're going to have to do this, and you're going to have to set strongholds and points of confidence across your footprint. So the state of Georgia, if they go out and they sign all these kids from Georgia this year, that's a big feather in the hat of not only Elko but A&M as a whole. Derek Miller, the GM, and then if you hold on to the Cali kids, and then you got one in New Jersey, you got one in Iowa, you're in big for one in Mississippi and one in Alabama, you got one in Florida. You're all over. If you're able to land all those guys, and at the end in December we're putting up a map of pins where A&M got kids from, and it covers coast to coast, that is going to be extremely impressive for Mike Elko in year 2.
Sounds like a graphic that the team needs to get ready just in case.
I didn't say that for no reason.
Yeah, well said. So with Tank, he makes his decisions when again?
It doesn't have
not a firm date, but
yes, it's coming close, man. Okay. Late this week. Next week, I think we're in the final maybe 7 to 10 days of this thing.
Okay, so it's coming down. So let's kind of go through before we hit a break the remaining in-state targets. All right, who's still out there that A&M feels good about, that you feel good about?
Well, when you're looking at in-state targets, first of all, you got to remember that they are going to take into account the first few weeks of tape for rising seniors, and Nelson McGuire in the last class is a prime example of that. Jason pointed out in his weekly article, Toby Hostrup was a kid out of Katy Maid Creek that did not have an offer and was on nobody's radar at this point last year. A&M ends up offering, but he signed with Oregon. So there's going to be a few players pop up within the state that have no A&M offers that we probably haven't even talked about, and that's just the natural progression of certain players, right? They mature at different levels. Everybody's timeline's a little bit different. So that's important to note. Outside of that, though, I think the names that you're watching are committed elsewhere. In fact, I know that. So like at receiver, you're looking at Booby Feaster,
right,
and you're looking at Jaden Warren at Iowa Colony. Feaster's committed to USC. Warren is committed.
But you felt pretty good about Booby at the time. So look.
Yeah, and he's got that strong connection to Peyton Houston in the 2027 class, who's committed to USC as a quarterback, and they've wanted to play together for so long, which is an interesting dynamic because if I'm a 26 receiver, I really don't worry about who the 27 quarterback is going to be.
Right.
I'd rather look at who the 25 quarterback is.
Yep.
Because you're going to catch most of your passes from the guy that's either your age or the guy above you, more than likely. But they've known each other for a long time. Yeah. That's where I think that's where USC made some big inroads, was just with that relationship that he had with Peyton Houston. And then Jaden Warren is a kid that I am extremely high on. Like, I think he's really good. He's committed to U of H. Willie Fritz is putting together a pretty strong class for U of H this cycle, led by Keyshawn Henderson, a 5-star quarterback. Jaden Warren has an A&M offer. I don't know how much A&M really stepped on the pedal for it, but it'd be something to keep an eye on once the season starts. And, if he starts putting up big numbers down there for a team that should be really good, not only for A&M, but other regional powers if they come in and start knocking on the door again. And then, like, Jamion Winfield, defensive tackle, he's another one that I think A&M will keep kicking the tires on and see what kind of dent they can make. He's committed to USC as well.
All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with more. And I do definitely have some baseball stuff for you as well, Bronny. Right now, whether you're chasing birds at sunrise, casting a line from the bow, or sweating it out during scorchers at Kyle Field, Duck Camp has got you covered. Cool, comfortable, and looking sharp no matter where the day takes you. I have a bunch of gear from Duck Camp, and it doesn't matter the situation. You wear it, you can go to the grocery store, you can go to the gym, you can go to the church, you can just go hunting with it, you can go fishing. You name it, they're top quality stuff. You're going to love wearing it, and people are going to comment on it as well. The lightweight fishing shirt, the essential hoodie, the scout shorts, the lightweight performance hoodie, breathable, quick drying, made to battle those 100-degree kickoff heat. There's a reason that Quinn Buchanan steals OB's stuff, because it's great, right? And the young people want them, the old people want them, we all want it. It's Duck Camp. Check it out at duckcamp.com. Built for the outdoors, designed for everything else. It's Duck Camp. I wish I had Olin here for it, because he loves energy drinks. Catalyst Citrus Spark. This is one of the new flavors out there. Whether you're grinding through workouts, cramming for a test, or closing in on a deal, or getting ready for TexAgs Live, you never know, right? Fast becoming the go-to fuel for Aggies everywhere. Zero sugar, I'm all in for that. Or synthetic sweeteners, no artificial colors or flavors. Catalyst delivers clean, high-performance energy with smooth, crisp taste that is never syrupy, designed for both health and hustle. You want to get going? You use this Catalyst right here. It's about pure energy and pure results. And what sets them apart? Packed with premium nootropics blended to boost focus, clarity, and mental stamina. I need this. I'm in, guys. I'm in. Plus, with plant-based caffeine, vitamin B12, B6, Catalyst supports metabolism and energy production, making it more than a drink. It's your lifestyle training partner. Built for competitors on the field, Catalyst fuels strength, focus, and pure results. Buy now at drinkcatalyst.com. That is drinkcatalyst.com. Train harder, think sharper, pure results. It's Catalyst.
And we're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, recruiting country.
Let me clarify something.
Yeah, American Momentum Bank, by the way.
I said Peyton Houston was committed to USC in the last segment. He's not yet committed there.
It's trending in that
very
direction.
much trending that direction.
Yep.
And A&M has, it's a good segue into A&M, because you've got 27 kids committed already in the 26 class, the page is already kind of flipping to 2027 just because you don't have any commitments. George Lammons decommitted a couple of weeks ago, and that was one of the odder commitments. The kid pretty to blue, himself. Right? It was out of the blue at the spring game, and it just felt like it was like a in-the-moment decision when it happened. I think if you asked Mike Elko, Derek Miller, all those guys across the street, it probably surprised them when it happened. And so it felt like one that was as wavering as you could be with a commitment. Best probably for the kid to just go ahead and open it up and start his process over again. And I'm not saying that A&M's going anywhere. It was just in the moment, it felt really rushed. So A&M's doesn't have a commit in the class of 2027. And we were talking about Peyton Houston's a quarterback that they've offered out of Shreveport, Louisiana. But we feel like things are trending in a certain direction for Jace Johnson, quarterback out of Valdosta, Georgia in that class, set to make a decision on August 3rd. I think A&M is putting a lot of eggs in that basket behind Colin Klein and Josh Buford, the quarterback assistant. And A&M has been in a really good spot for him.
Okay. Brian, there's a couple of texts that have come in for you.
Okay.
Kelly, do you want to do the one from Fonz?
You can do that one.
All right. Bronny, this comes in Spanish. Nuño, cada vez que mando texto para el señor Bronny, él no se entiende. Yo quiero saber dónde lo aprendió para entendernos.
I don't want to answer in Spanish, but I understand the question. By Spanish, I don't use it enough to answer fluently, and I'll probably chop it up.
Well, why don't you tell the humans that are listening, right, the English-speaking population that just changed the station, if they come back, what the question was.
Every time he texts in Spanish, I understand him. He wanted to know how I learned to understand him, especially how to learn Spanish. And it's really from scratch. Started taking it in high school, took 3 years of it in high school, then on to junior college at Hill and played. I played with a Puerto Rican, a Venezuelan, and a Dominican.
Okay.
And so they really helped me. So when I left junior college from Hill and I went to McNeese, I went to a place in Lake Charles, Louisiana, where there's hardly any Spanish spoken at all.
Mm-hmm.
If they speak anything other than English, it's French. And so that's where I started to kind of lose it. I took 2 years of Spanish at McNeese, 2 semesters of Spanish at McNeese to try to keep it. I have found in the last probably 5 or 6 years, I've picked up more of it, but I'm not where I was when I was like 19, 20 years old, when I was speaking it a bunch and almost, I would say almost fluent. So I try to use it when I can. I embarrass my wife with it often.
Let's go back to Kaylee. Kaylee, there's a text from Trey in Shiner, and no, we're not talking about the one for Brian.
Trey in Shiner says, Ryan, which recruits can we flip, and which of ours will be the hardest to hold on to?
Yeah, I don't like speculating into which recruits are going to be the hardest to hold on to. I think whenever you examine A&M's class and you look at the nature of it in terms of its geographic location, there's going to be some battles to fight. But if I were to sit here and insinuate that one's going to be harder than the other, then I might be speculating on something where a kid it gets out there, and if I said Storm Miller is going to be hard to hold on to, well, Storm Millers might see this and be like, no, like I'm all in with A&M. Like, why would you even speculate? Is there something going on behind the scenes? Like, it's
right.
This is not how we operate. Like, I'm not going to sit up here because I don't know enough. And even still, like judging who's going to be the hardest to hold on to, it's a pretty slippery slope to go down. In terms of flip targets, I mean, I mentioned 3 of those in state that I think A&M will remain after. But if you look at A&M's commit list, like Samuel Roseboro, for instance, I mean, that was a down-to-the-wire, head-to-head win over Texas, right? Mm-hmm. You think Texas is going to go anywhere on that? No, of course not. Just like Boobie Feaster was a down-to-the-wire pick for pick for USC, A&M's not going to go anywhere on that. So you can expect for A&M to have to fight those battles throughout the course of the fall. The good news is like you continue to have kids that are committed from across the country that have not only reaffirmed but shut down their recruitment. Yep. And Victor Singleton is a cornerback from Ohio that just did that. And so A&M's having more and more of those happening. You have Jonathan Hatton that did it. You had KJ Edwards did it in state. Those are 2 big ones. So Yeah, I don't want to speculate on stuff like that. You can just bet that, and that's part of what we talked about, like the risk of it, right? Is when you go coast to coast the way A&M has in this class, there's going to be some battles to fight, and they know that. Like, I'm not breaking any news to anybody over there at Bright; they're very aware of it.
Any takeaways from Coach Early at PKO?
No, I asked him, the first question I asked him was, what did you learn last year? And he's just said everything. And it's something that we talked about over the course of the season, was that there's just no way to prepare you for it until you go through it. And then I think if you were to go back and to examine it on the other side of it, there's no way to put it into words, everything that you learned specifically. I have been adamant, and I believe this, and full transparency, I talked to Josh Stewart at PKO. Hopefully going to get Josh in here for an interview soon. But talking to Josh, talking to Gavin Lyons at PKO, I said, I would expect things to be different starting in the fall. And those guys have been in College Station this summer. Both of them told me it's already different. It's already a different vibe in the building, in the weight room. It feels like Coach Early is taking this personal, and you knew he would. He is extremely self-aware. He understands what happened. He understands what's on the line going forward, and he's not going to leave anything to chance, if I were to guess. And it sounds like the changes in mentality starting at the top are going to happen quick. If you are a Texas Aggies United subscriber, we're going to have Caden Sorrell in here today. I'm going to ask Caden Sorrell, who's been here for a while now after his hand surgery and kind of rehabbing that hand, that hamate bone that he broke at the end of the season, what he's seen. And if he's felt this same kind of change, shift in mentality already.
Ronnie, thank you, buddy.
Yep.
All right, we come back. Andrew Monaco, he will be joining us here in studio. Let's talk about the filmmaker, Chance McClain, my buddy who runs Heritage Films. He's done all kinds of movies before, red carpet shows, started a radio station, a great storyteller, and a guy likes telling your family story. He did my dad's story. My dad's going to be 95 tomorrow, right? What a blessing.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
isn't that great? And, he's had a rough 18 months, no doubt about it, but Chance did his story back when we first moved to College Station, 21, 22 in that range, and it was awesome to get it, right? And I'm so happy we did it. I highly recommend it for everybody, because you're not promised tomorrow. You're not promised anything, right? And Chance will tell that story, and then your family will be able to know it for generation after generation. He can do your family ranch story as well with his ranch and farm films, which are fantastic. Call him up, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341, or check out yourheritagefilm.com. That's yourheritagefilm.com.
And we're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. A 2-4 Wednesday. Andrew Monaco double segment, buddy. How you doing?
I am great, my friend. Thanks for having me.
The voice of the Aggies here with us. So you were in the press conference yesterday. I saw you. I'm going to tell you my takeaway. Tell me if it feels the same way. A quiet confidence, which we've gotten used to with Coach Elko, right?
Sure.
But the whole team has adopted that. Yeah, we're confident, but we're not going to say too much. But we know what we can do.
Yeah, I chuckled because when you said quiet confidence, I was going to answer that with you. I think that's there, and I think that comes from the experience that is coming back at a number of different positions. And I think it's also that you look at the track record of Mike Elko. The second year is an improvement from the first year. Yeah. And we've talked about this before about how he's so good wherever he has been in retaining players and by retaining an offensive line that has a little chip on its shoulder and an entire running back room that has a little chip on their shoulder. And now a back end that has played together. Mike said this, that you had 7 people on that defense that had come from different schools. Now, you don't have that same number coming into this year. So if we talk about camaraderie and we're going to learn it from Marcel and Casey Concepcion, and Marcel's already said they've got it because he helped recruit them and what they've done together. Now think about the communication on the back end. And with a Mike Elko and a Jay Bateman defense, after year 1, it's top down.
Right.
When there's that understanding now, it's a completely different level of what they know what to do, and now they talk to one another. Right. Or they can talk to Jay and Mike differently than they have in the past. That's exciting to me. And I like that confidence because it's, hey, we know what we did last year. We know all of it, what we did. Missed an opportunity. And it feels like we don't want to let that opportunity go by. And again, this isn't just for 2025. I think this is something that you can build on and do this every season with that kind of quiet confidence.
Talking to Andrew Monaco here on TexAgs Live. Let's kind of go through some names that we may not completely know that you think come October, November, we're going to start knowing. Does anybody jump out like, hey, I've heard these good reports? Like Ryan Kennedy, he's our 25 and 25 guy today. Yeah. He's a name that people know. Yeah. We haven't seen a lot of him, but I think you're going to see a lot of them.
I think you're going to see a lot of them, and I thought in Las Vegas there was a lot of him for that, because you had the D linemen who were going on to the NFL. He got a chance to play, but he was a young it's funny because he was being referred to as young fella by the other defensive linemen that can't help but say that on the air about it. But you watched 15 in the past and you're like, oh, there could be something special there. Yep. Like I knew DJ Hicks on the radar when he was early because McKinley Jackson talked about DJ Hicks, right? And that's the way the D-line was talking about Ryland Kennedy. And I think he's got that. Now, I'm going to say this because he had such a great spring. Mike Elko a year ago said we can't put everything on Terry Bussey because he's 17 years old. Can we say the same thing? Let's not put everything on Marco Jones, but he could be one of those impacts.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I understand exactly where Mike's coming from. Oh, the season depends on Terry Bussey. No, don't do that. Don't do that to anybody like that. I'm always interested.
But Marco has got the benefit of having guys around him to, he doesn't have to be the guy right away.
Agreed, and I think that's huge.
Right.
And I call them the bubbling under guys. Who are those freshmen who now know what it's like? That when you go through your first camp, we love today. Mm-hmm. You're all excited. How about when you wake up tomorrow?
Yep.
Right? That's step one. You never went through that before. Not in high school. It's not the same. And then what do you do, David, in the middle of camp when there's no light at the end of the tunnel? There's no game coming up on Saturday. How do you fight through that? They've now all gone through it. Ashton Bethel-Roman, new number. You saw a little bit last year from him. Isaiah Williams, you hear all about the speed, and you watch him in practice. Yeah. And you're saying, oh, I see exactly what you're talking about. Now here is a moment for them, and see how that is. Do they get into the rotation? I just think when you have that understanding of what camp is about and how do I prepare, what do I have to do? But you also have some great leaders and that experience around you to help you with all that. That's when I think guys blossom. I heard a great line. It was actually earlier today. Guys who go from either redshirt freshmen to sophomores, things like that. we talk about the fog when they're young, right? And the game slows down or however. The fog lifts through sweat equity. And I like that. It was said to me, and I'm like, I'm stealing that.
Sweat equity, yeah.
And that's what camp and July, I talk about the work in the dark, and spring ball, where you might be a little uncomfortable because I haven't been in that position. All of that. But this camp is that sweat equity. And don't be surprised when there are these names making plays for Texas A&M this season.
Talking to Andrew Monaco here on TexAgs Live. What kind of leap do you expect from Cassius Howell? Because he leaped at the end of last year. So if he can bottle that up all season long, goodness.
Yeah, and Mike has talked about him. Coach Elko's talked about him time and again. It was people ask him during the coaches' nights throughout the state, and he's so intriguing in in all that he can do from that position. Like, you're amazed that he was covering backs, tight ends, wide receivers last year. Like, I use the word hybrid an awful lot, but he's not like that defensive end position has really changed, has it not? Like, we've gone from pure pass rushers to now we're talking about the bend and the edge. And then there's Cassius who can cover. Like, he might be one of those guys, David, that you just want to watch him sometimes. Yeah. One of the 11 there and all that he can do, intriguing. And I just think this is someone who's like, once he knows he's better, like that confidence grows. And I think he can be one of those impact guys where he is at the top of the scouting report. Yep. And you better know that if you don't block Cassius Howell, your offense is in for a long afternoon. I certainly hope it's that way, but no, and I think he's one of those leaders. Okay, you want to change your body a little bit? And when you change the body a little bit and then see the results, I think it takes you to another level.
So I'm going to bring up another guy, and I feel like some of the guys that I'm bringing up, I've had conversations with them, and I feel like when you have a conversation with them, it can kind of skew a little bit. Yeah. But I'm sitting next to Theo. He was here last week, and I was impressed with the way his body looked, right? Yeah. In clothes, hopefully. And just
he's a big cat.
Yeah, but he looks strong. And
yes, that's it.
It's not just big. It was like big and strong. Yeah. And also kind of like calm. Like, I belong. And I know I belong.
But it goes back to what you said originally. He's got the quiet confidence because he's been in that tight end role. He has been there where, you know what? There are some games where I just have to block. And there are some games, you know what? I'm going to be the receiver. And then there is that trust because when Theo first came here, they talked about, man, he is going to have a skill set. Now he's got that skill set. Like, he has whatever that gap was in the understanding. He's there now. And now there's also something else, David, I think, to knowing that you're going to be one of the guys. Yeah. And there's a responsibility for that. And you're not always the underdog, right? Okay, this is now my job. Look, that sometimes gets lost. I think that tight end room is as good as it's ever been. And you have a lot of different people who are going to be kind of throwbacks to can Nyblack be like Jay Sternberger? Like, I love those kind of hybrids. Like, and I think with Theo changing the body, but he had to learn, okay, I've got to catch the ball, but I also have to block. Like, all the responsibilities of now becoming the sixth offensive lineman on that line. Again, I think that fog has lifted and he's got an understanding. And when you realize you're good, that takes you to another level.
100%.
He's good. He's done a lot. He has changed his body a lot since he stepped on campus, now where he is. Another thing is, I think that acceptance by your teammates, accepting that he's here, how Aggies accept him as well, I think has made a difference for him.
One more before we hit a break. Ruben Owens, I feel like people forget what Ruben Owens can be. Like, well, yeah, we know but like last year heading into camp, there was a lot of talk about him being the guy, right? Yeah. Like, and Le'Veon is obviously the guy.
I know what you're saying, yeah.
But there was a lot, and I think we forget like a fully healthy, experienced time under his time under saddle, if you will, of being a guy here in College Station, in college football. I think we're going to see a lot from him this year.
Yeah, there's something about a chip on the shoulder that I really, really like. And it gives you a lot of balance. Look, you go back to last year, and I don't know if it was going to be Ruben was going to be RB1. I don't know. But I do know in the offseason, Le'Veon Moss had asked Mike Elko, can I be the number one running back? And Mike told him, this is all that goes into being that. Obviously, Le'Veon did that. Time of the injury, bigger injury than we thought, right? The bigger impact than we thought. And you could make a case for the best running back in the SEC. Now you're adding someone who could be the best running back in the SEC now. And what a 1-2 punch that is. And with Le'Veon, to me, not just age, because age doesn't always bring wisdom, but I think the age and the experience and having it taken away. Same thing with Ruben, having it taken away. And for Ruben, will it be just at running back, or will he also be a special teams guy in addition?
Right.
You know, I love guys who can make plays. You've got to get them the ball, right? So how do you do it? Maybe it's not just a handoff. Maybe it's out of the backfield. Maybe it is on a punt, kick return, stuff like that. They can't touch it enough. I think he's one of those guys, and that versatility, I think he can just, again, you forget because he wasn't in that lineup and he wasn't in that backfield. Now, healthy, missing it a little bit, that desire to be the best and be the Ruben Owens that we know he can be, I think it makes it real exciting. Combined with an experienced offensive line, you can have the best line and a bad quarterback and a bad running back. No one knows if that's a Joe Moore award-winning line, right?
Yep.
But when you in concert with a quarterback who can make plays, who understands what it's like to be an SEC quarterback now, and a stable of running backs like that, will make that offensive line shine.
All right, we'll hit a break here. More with Andrew Monaco here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
And we're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Andrew Monaco still with us. So there's something you said, I think, about Ruben, and then I think we've said about others, and I think we can say it about A&M. Chip on their shoulder, right? Which I think is a key thing, but not like an angry chip on your shoulder, right? Like you listen to Marcel. He hears what people say. Yeah, I get it. I can't throw. Let's go see what happens, right? Let's go line it up and find out. Elko doesn't read and listen to what everybody's saying, but he's aware because people bring it up in press conferences. You know, they've 8-4, whatever they think about A&M. I kind of like that stance as opposed to the bravado, even though I'm more like in your face. Like it's more like, okay, I see what you're saying. We're just going to work.
Now, at some point, I want that bravado.
Yeah.
Because I want to be that team every year. You know what I mean? I want people to be sick of Texas A&M every year, right? I want that. You got to earn that right to get there. You can't just say it. Look, last year was exceeding expectations, and then you got to November. We've talked about this before. That's got to sting. And unless you do something about it, it's going to sting again, right? That's what I feel where that quiet confidence comes in of we're not letting that happen again. We want to put ourselves in that same position.
Yep.
But this time come through in November, right? That's what it is. And that's what's been missing in years past, coming through. Who breaks through? And I think when you do break through, then you can talk year after year. Same way as we talk about this roster in 2025, and you and Brawny are talking about who's coming. I still think even in this day and age, you've got to layer your roster.
Yep.
You just can't say, oh, you know what, the portal will fix that. Then you're bringing in guys who are guns for hire, and they don't fit what you want for your program. I love what Coach Elko is doing, looking at 26 and 27 and 28, and then saying, okay, like we talked about Casey Concepcion. He said, you know what helped? I coached against him. So when we started talking to him, there was a little bit of understanding, right? Because look, he's out there. How many schools are out there? Because they're all contacting him. He's a difference maker. That's what I like. Here's the next part of that. When that number shrinks next to your name, you better be ready. You have to be if you want to be one of the elite programs. You can't always be an underdog. So that's why I'm with you. I like that chip on the shoulder because it's to get rid of the sting from last year and that bad taste and not to go through that again. But if you get to November and that number's in single digits next to your name, now everybody's taking a shot because that can change over the course of the season. Wait a second. No one expected anything from us at the beginning of the year. No, that's not the way it works. Everybody takes that shot. So for all the elite programs who are circled on the schedule every year, that's where I want Texas A&M to be. That's the biggest game.
Am I weird? I know I'm not. I mean, I am for other reasons, but not for this question. But like, I'm going to give blind faith that, like, by the way, I like Jay Bateman. I like Peter. I like them all. Everybody that they have there, right? Am I too much blind faith thinking, I think it's going to be fixed? I just don't think they're going to have problems tackling this year like they did last year. I think that they're going to finish plays and get to the quarterback and not have some of the almost sacks. I just believe it because I believe in Coach Elko.
Right, and that's what I mean by year one to year two. Here are the expectations. And this, to me, having that familiarity and then having this group coming back. Like, Jay's not going to have to tell anybody. Torian will. Solomon will.
Right.
You know what I mean? Cassius will. Will Lee will. Desiree. That's where I think that, and I've said this because this was from the past. Mike Elko first comes as DC, and he's preaching everybody what they want to do. And then as the year goes on, guess what? Leon O'Neal Jr. is now talking to Keldrick Harper, who's talking to Damani Richardson, right? That's where I see that difference. And that's where I agree with you in that it's not going to be fixed because the coaches are going to say, hey, fix it. It's the players themselves are going to say that the missed tackle, unacceptable, right? The change in South Carolina, if you tackle Lenora Sellers and it's second and long or third and long or they have to punt as opposed to a first down, change the game. Le'Veon went out, right? In that. If you do what you're supposed to do, that game's different. Maybe the season is different. That's what I think is now in this memory. And it's not just, oh, I'm a year stronger and I'm a year smarter. No, I think you have to go through it. And that's where I'm with you. I think it gets fixed because they are going to want to fix it, not because it's going to come top down saying, hey, you got to tackle better. Nah, that's never been how this coaching staff
but I
has
think
been.
the top-down mentality of, hey, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And getting people to buy in. Because the fact that they're saying we got to finish every rep in the gym, every homework assignment, it's about finishing. And I think finishing plays comes with that.
There's no way you can finish a season if you don't finish a game, if you don't finish a half, if you don't finish a quarter, if you don't finish a play. Yeah.
Right.
What's the most important play? The next one. And again, I know the former coach said it, but it's always stayed with me.
Yeah.
Win your position more times than your other guy on the scoreboard will say what you want it to say. That is that mentality. And I think it resonates more with mature players than it does sometimes with younger players who will say, I've got enough talent.
Got to drop it there, sir. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, my friend.
Appreciate
Thanks for having
Andrew
me.
Monaco. Tomorrow on the program, Phil Steele, and I think more. That's what I can tell you. We'll see you then.